there. Thanks for clicking on this video in which I will play the game as stated in the title. But first, a little smoke to, calm my nerves before the game, right? How's that sound? Pretty bad. All right. So it's pretty nice out here. It's what? Hey there, Famad. How you doing? It's pretty early here. It's what a.m. 6:27 a.m. Pretty nice out. I've been up since 3 or 4 in the morning. I forgot already. So I'm gonna play this. What am I gonna do in GTA today? I think I'm gonna start out by doing the burglary missions, which aren't required, which aren't a part of the required 100%. However, completing them gets you unlimited sprint, cycling, and swimming. Touching glass. What's that mean? Is that a drug reference? Hopefully not broken glass. So once I have succeeded in completing the burglary missions, I'm gonna go spend a little time to get a lot of money, which entails my bird friend. One of my bird friends are over there. Oh, it flew off, I think. No, it's over there still. I'm gonna, after the burglary missions, go GTQ and SA. I'm gonna go to the off-track betting place and bet a bunch of money on the horse with the lowest odds, right? First you save. So if you lose, load the game and keep trying until you get the money, right? And when you win, save and repeat the process until you have as much money as you want. So it's kind of cheating. It's exploiting a save thing, right? Exploiting the way the saves work, but it doesn't affect your 100%, right? More of an exploit than an outright cheat, but still a cheat, I guess. I don't know. You tell me. I'm gonna do it anyway. Pete. And after that, I will probably I'm gonna do more unique jumps too. That might be the entire stream, those 3 things. I might wait till I might actually start the story missions before I do the vigilante missions, because it's easier to get ammo. There's a certain story mission anyway or whatever. or when the ammunition place opens up, you can take the challenge and quit out of it, and your ammo will double each time you quit for the weapon you have or whatever. So I think it's easier to do the vigilante missions that way. Easier to get the ammo that you need for it. It must have rained last night because the ground's all wet. And the wind's blowing through the trees, and there's water sounds. Exciting, huh? Birdies are singing this morning. Oh, almost ready here. Maybe another 5 minutes, not too long of a, maybe 10. I don't think I'm going to sit here for half an hour this morning. Get on to the game. Alrighty, almost here. Let's see. Spark her up. Ah. Oh, quiet time here. I'll be going in a second. What's this? Top fans? Ahmad, you're a top fan with 75 XP. That's new. I'm pretty sure I didn't see that yesterday or any time before. Top fans. It should say top fan because there's only one there right now. Almost. Itchy, itchy. One more here. Hopefully I can find the vehicle to start the burglary missions. Oh, this stinking mosquito, get out of here. Time to go in soon. Alright, let's roll in here. Through the door. The door. Let's open the door. Open the door. Anyone know what I'm referencing here? The door. Remember that guy? Oh, I gotta grab my, what you call it? Not a whatchamacallit, not the candy bar. My phone plugger in here. I think that's all I'm gonna have. Maybe some water. I'm gonna put some water in as well. Water out, water in. Oh, what's this? My other thing. Alright. Let's see how this works. Is it working? Plugging? Charging? No. There it goes. Now the water time. Put 3 in there, take the 1 out. I'll take my, what do you call it here? Wrong thing here. What's it called? Omeprazole for the old innards, right? Keep that acid reflux at bay. Mm-hmm. This cord's being annoying. It's being counterproductive. Is it working? Plug it in, come on. Plug work. Work. There it goes. Alright, time to power it up here. Game console. Power in controller. Let's listen to the real life talk radio here, the local. Well, some of it's national, but whatever. The local affiliate. Oh, that's not it. There it is.
Popularizing smart glasses. And then this year we started working on a new product.
Let's look in the map. I don't remember where that.
Smart glasses for the deaf and hard of hearing. Basically, we're building these glasses that can complement hearing aids by picking up what people are saying to you and transcribing that into text in real time.
How do you feel about the restrictions that have been put on international students?
On the game, the map included with a game here.
Because
locate the gym.
They want to stay. They want to get a job?
That's
Would they
near
want
the
to do a
gym, the
job
thing
for a
I'm
smart
looking
company
for.
like I did? And because we're turning them away, like these people, they're still going to end up somewhere, right? So they would go to some other country. Maybe it's the UK, maybe if they're Chinese, maybe they stay in
Ganton.
China. And so all of that talent is actually moving
Not
away
far
from
from
the US to other
CJ's
countries,
house, I think.
which is probably not what these
Load her
folks
up,
want.
come on, let me play
Ray
this.
is the founder of Vigo
Let me
Technologies.
play the game, it's loading
Company.
fast,
Thanks for
ooh,
sharing your story
faster
with us.
than
Thank you so much.
Vice City. Even though it's a
This
bigger
is PR
game,
News.
huh?
Good morning,
That
I'm Monica
compression
from
or
BBC.
something.
The Tibetan Buddhist spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, who turns 90 on Sunday, has confirmed he will have a successor after his death. But China, which annexed Tibet in 1951 and regards the Dalai Lama as a separatist, says it should be responsible for approving his successor. The BBC's Laura Baker.
The Chinese government has announced it wants to find its own Dalai Lama within China through a system of evaluation.
Oh, my
and
control stick was
drawing. Now this sets China on a collision course with the world's most famous monk.
uncensored. Now it is. Alright.
Has formally signed into law a bill suspending his country's
What to do?
cooperation with the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA. It comes
There's
in the
a
wake
car.
of US and Israeli attacks
I'll
on its
take
nuclear
it.
facilities. Iran says the law will stay in force unless certain conditions are met, including the protection of its nuclear scientists. And a report has been published into a fire at an electricity substation that shut down London's Heathrow Airport in March. Ben King says the report cites the cause as a preventable technical fault.
High moisture levels led to a catastrophic failure as part of the substation. That caused a short circuit, sparking a fire which ignited the oil used to cool the system. High moisture levels were first detected in 2018, but were
Is
not
that, I'll get some grenades. I can't get enough of those grenades, right?
Good morning. Many nurses yesterday rallied in Portland against the proposed Medicaid cuts in the budget bill that passed the Senate. Nurse Jody Friedman says the cuts will prevent many Mainers from receiving the care they need.
Did I
Most
get
of the patients
him?
on Medicaid are the underserved and the underinsured. There are veterans, our children are disabled, elderly, they need care in nursing homes.
Mine's better.
People with mental illness.
Get out of my
it's
way,
really important
copper.
that we keep care for all those people.
Organizers visited Senator Susan Collins' Portland office after the rally to thank Collins for voting no on the bill.
Alright, let's find this crap.
The Lincoln County Courthouse will close for at least 2
I think
weeks
it's
to
in
deal with
here,
possible mold.
over
Officials say
here.
the hearings scheduled in that time will be
Over there somewhere.
We'll check out the weather forecast coming up in 4 minutes.
It might not appear until
It
it's
is a 6:45.
20 on the clock. That's,
Support for
I don't
NPR
know.
comes from the station and from BritBox.
I should have saved it in the
presenting
garage.
BritBox original drama based on the scandalous true story of England's infamous Mitford sisters. Streaming this and more original series at BritBox.com. From Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing,
Where
and
is
trading.
it?
Learn more at
I
Schwab.com.
want it.
And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
I gotta
This
go
is Morning Edition
save.
from NPR News. I'm Ray Martinez.
And I'm Layla Fadel. This week, President Trump is kicking off the country's 250th birthday celebration at the Iowa State Fairgrounds.
Baloney.
Honoring America's history and accomplishments.
Save, I guess.
Its future. Here to break it down for us is NPR's Chloe Veltman. Hi, Chloe.
Hello, Layla.
So let's start.
Where's the nearest
Basics. What
save?
is America
That
today?
isn't CJ's
So
house.
some of our listeners might recall
Down
the
south, to the
bicentennial
left.
celebration, the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1976. We're 50 years on, and America's putting its party hats
Blam.
on again for the 250th anniversary. The organizers are planning something ambitious. Most inspiring celebration this country has ever seen, and perhaps the world has ever seen.
Where the hell am
That was
I
America's
going? The right way?
Commission Chair, Rosie Rios,
The
who's a
wrong
former
way.
treasurer in the Obama
I want
administration,
this
and I spoke with her back in
one.
May.
Okay, so Rios chairs the American
I guess,
50
yeah.
Commission, but there's also now a White House planning group. Is that right?
Yes, so Rosie Rios'
Oh,
request, the
screw
American
you.
250 Commission, was established
Screw
by Congress
you.
in 2016. It's meant to be a non-partisan group, and its efforts are supported by a non-profit foundation. And then there's something called Task Force 250. That group was established much more recently, this past January, by President
Crunch.
Trump, who's chairing it. Now, the Commission has been doing a bunch of its own programming for the past couple of years, but right now, its website seems to be prioritizing events led by the White House over its own tentpole initiatives. For example, there's
What
the
gun
American
is
250
this?
kickoff celebration you mentioned,
Okay.
where Trump is
The
expected to
Eagle.
announce plans for a great
Desert Eagle. Hey, get away from me.
Patriot Games highlighting
Ah, hey, man.
Also, there was the recent
Why am I bleeding? That was my armor.
North Carolina.
So what sort of events and initiatives are taking place?
Well, every state and many cities are going to organise events over the next year. Some very local programming is going to happen. For example, in Idaho, there's this display of giant fabric potatoes dressed up like Revolutionary War figures. Yeah, so lots of American quirkiness.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the national level, there are ongoing initiatives like, for example, America's
17.
150 school
I don't
kids
think
part
it's
of
going to
this.
be there
They're
yet. I'll
school
diddle
visits
around, I
visits
guess.
to famous landmarks. Also, there's Trump's National Garden of American Heroes. That's a proposed sculpture park. There's going to be 250
Give me a
statues of American figures
vehicle.
like George Washington, Babe Ruth, and
I
Martin
guess
Luther
this will.
King. I should also note that at the national level, plans are in flux.
Okay.
For example, an online
This
vehicle
one.
for a big project launched 2 years ago called America's Invitation, which was inviting the public to upload messages expressing their hopes and
3
dreams for the
cops,
future of the
huh?
country. That whole project seems to have vanished from the American 250 website. That happened a few weeks ago.
Oh, why
And
don't I
talked to the
try
American
this
250
crap
Commission press
again?
team, and they told NPR the initiative is now,
Wait,
quote, taking a
nah.
back seat to other things.
Nah.
Could have started under a different administration.
I'll get some
Chloe,
armor.
the whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking about an administration that says it wants to cut funding. So how is this big American party being funded?
It's a
Am I
mixed
going the
bag.
wrong way for it?
Democrats are seeking $150 million
Yeah.
from Congress. They've secured sponsorships from
Other
Coca-Cola,
way.
Martin, and other corporations. Plus, the White House
Slam into a train, no big deal, right?
Previously awarded to arts and humanities nonprofits to 250th celebration projects. For example, the National Garden of American Heroes.
That's Chloe Veltman. Thank you, Chloe.
Thanks very much for having me.
Why did I do that?
NPR News, I'm Layla.
Why did I do that?
Listening to Morning
And
Edition
that.
on Public Radio. Good morning to you on this Wednesday. I'm Rowan Gratz at about 10 minutes before 7 o'clock. Partly sunny. Once again today, we'll have high temperatures many places in the 80s. Maybe just a little bit less humid than yesterday, but still pretty sticky out there. Tonight will be mainly clear down into the upper 50s and mid-60s. Tomorrow, partly sunny. More shower and thunderstorm activity coming through. This will be another front that will help to clear away some of the humidity.
18,
Tomorrow,
19.
mid-70s to the upper 80s, and the 4th of July, partly to mostly sunny, more comfortable.
Why is it that some people
Just
defy
screwing
the odds
around,
and
doing
escape chronic
burnouts or
diseases
something.
well into old age?
Basically, if you're
Any
over
more
85
grenades?
and you don't have any of the 3 major age-related diseases, cancer, cardiovascular,
If you're over
or
what?
degenerative, then you've made it into the super ager group.
I'm Deborah Becker.
No
The Secrets of
cancer.
Super Agers. That's on the next On Point.
On Point coming up this morning at 10 here on Maine Public Radio.
Oh, let's get a new vehicle and drive there.
The oldest buildings in Maine. I'm Jennifer Rooks.
Oh, it's
Within
like
their
right
walls
around the
lie
corner.
centuries of history and family stories. Our experts discuss the fascinating buildings still standing in communities from York to
Where?
Machias, many from the 1700s, and what their backstories reveal about the history of this region. Maine Calling, Wednesday, live at 11 and again at 8 on Maine Public Radio.
Morning
Thanks.
Edition is made possible
He knew
by
it wasn't
contributing
just a
listeners with
harmless
from
accident.
Ernst & Young, lawyers who will dig deep into your
No
matter
harm,
as part of your
no
team.
foul.
Learn more at bernsteinsure.com. And Atlantic Design Center by Oak Lumber and Hardware, with kitchen and bath
Where?
showrooms located in York and Portland. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
Later this morning, we'll get the economic version of what the theater
Come on.
might call an out-of-town tryout.
You stinking vehicle, where are you?
Supported by Bitwarden Password Manager.
That's it, right?
Designed to offer secure password management
Jim.
at this summer's events and festivals from any seat, section, or sideline. Available at bitwarden.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. The ADP payroll company counts up the paychecks it processes for a reading on the strength of the job market ahead of the report.
Oh yeah, I need to drive away a little.
June tally will come in nearly 3
I
times
was too
higher
close when it.
We'll get the report shortly. Meanwhile, another
Oh, there it is. I was in the wrong place, I think. Even the first time I looked for it.
Marketplace's Justin Ho goes deeper.
Job churn can tell us a lot about how easy it is to find a job. For instance, if the quits rate is high, it's a sign people feel comfortable quitting because they see plenty of other opportunities.
When it's low,
Burglar, I think you need 20,000 altogether.
Because they don't see that many opportunities out there.
Where to go?
Is lead economist at Oxford Economics.
I can't remember. There's good places to. No, come on. Whatever, we'll just go wherever. I don't care.
You know, the low hiring rate has not alarmed us as much as it would otherwise because layoffs remain low.
Oh, I'm going stupid places.
Employers are nervous to let go of workers. As Bill Adams.
Where's the hood?
Likely because of all the
Come on.
they experienced in the pandemic and post-pandemic period and getting back to being full.
Oh, I'm in the totally wrong area. Where am I? I've gone too far north.
That's likely a contributor to the low level of hires from employers' perspective and to the low level of job quitting from workers' perspective.
In other words, workers and employers are simply waiting to see how the broader economy shakes out. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
The Labor Department's big hiring and unemployment reports are
loading that complex house.
For Thursday, but the first Friday of this month is a holiday. Stocks S&P futures are up 0.1%.
Pick it up, idiot.
Are unchanged at the moment. Some hardline Republicans who want deeper cuts to government programs could derail a procedural vote in the House of Representatives.
It doesn't matter.
That could bust the Republicans' self-imposed deadline.
Thanks for the thumbs up.
Tax cutting and program cutting bill to the president's desk before the 4th of July
pay attention.
Holiday. Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S. have a new push to lock in supplies of critical
run Vice City in Windows 98. I did not know that. I don't know much about what runs on what particular Windows. I don't even know what Windows I have on my computer. XT, I think.
There are several countries like Australia.
Oh, there's someone right there.
Critical mineral mines, which are now, countries are seeking more partnerships there to source and have a separate supply chain.
There's a better way to do this, but I can't remember.
Made there, they said that reliance
on one country probably shouldn't have went in there.
These critical minerals kind of exposes the industries to economic coercion, price manipulation, and supply chain disruptions.
That rare earth group is called the Quad: Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs.
I think that's what you do. Yeah, you go back and forth between houses. Like this. All right.
It's been less than a month since President Trump took control of California's national
7 minutes of this crap. All right.
Police parts of Southern California and the U.S. bombing of
Hey, this is my house. That's not going to work.
To military families that deployments come with little notice.
I need a better spot. There's one.
Memorial Day. He's a maintenance officer in the Air Force.
This isn't too bad, I guess. I'll park it more in the middle.
The Air Force pays her husband's rent, but he has to buy new bedding and kitchen stuff and a car to get around.
Anytime we deploy or we move, we can realistically, we need to set aside $3,000 to $5,000
for bedding.
3 sons, aged 8, 10, and 13.
Come on.
Childcare costs for the younger ones are going up.
Don't want to go in there. I'm doing bad. I stole one thing so far.
Make a good $80 to $100 a week. So
Byram says her husband will get about $300 a month.
Oh, there's a better place.
The military
for the truck.
Different kinds
There's
of
2 right here.
Like for dangerous
house.
Service members may also qualify for a family separation allowance. The Defense Department puts some effort into helping families prepare. They have to make
5 seconds to get out. All right.
Expenses. Raleigh Smith.
Oh, I messed it all up.
With her spouse for his last deployment about 6 years ago.
Make sure your wills are in check.
They're blasting me.
Knows that this guy is gone and can't repossess the car.
But all that
Pull out the AK.
didn't do much for Keela,
It's not very strong.
She asked us to use just her first name because she's worried about repercussions
Come on.
work with military spouses. Her husband,
That he took a ride.
late last month, bound for the Mediterranean.
Oh, I'm gonna save.
Before the U.S. attacked Iran, but its commander told
If I don't get killed first.
And maneuverable, and he told families to prepare for a deployment of up to 9 months.
But we just don't know. Are they going with their original?
Get some help. Hey, this is in my house.
Before everything started happening in the world.
FEMA says the uncertainty around this deployment makes it.
Oh, wow. Let's load it back up.
Have 2 sons under 5.
Got blasted.
To spend another $100 a month on babysitting or more. It's just hard to know for sure what a deployment is going to cost.
That was a
Every spouse knows
bad, off to a bad start here.
Murphy's Law
Oh, well.
Full effect. You don't know what those expenses look like.
Every single military spouse I spoke to for this story made one point. Our families signed up for this. Our spouses weren't drafted. Here's Raleigh Smith Duttweiler.
We did sign up knowing that things would be hard. We just don't usually expect them to be as hard as they are.
Duttweiler says military families are working families, trying to make ends meet just like everybody else. I'm Nancy Benson from Marketplace.
And holders of stocks at big banks had a bountiful Tuesday with the news that those extra payouts known as dividends would spike. Goldman Sachs dividends up 33%, Bank of America up 8%.
All right, let's go get that vehicle.
This is in part because financial stress tests set up after the last financial crisis were made easier.
Dust a few of these guys on the way.
It's the Marketplace Morning Report from 8 p.m. American Public Media.
Oh, why is that redneck cop here? That's a funny cop.
All summer long, fairs and festivals, music and theater, workshops and wilderness adventures. How can you connect to it all? Maine Public's community calendar. It's easy to find things to do. Search by type of event, date, or location. Present an organization and want to let Mainers know about the event? Simply enter the details using our online form.
So get some armor. Get the police off me as well.
This is WMEH Portland 90.1, WMEH Bangor 90.9, WMEW Waterville 91.3, WMEM Prescott 106.1, WMED Calais 89.7, WMEF Fort Kent 106.5. WMEP Camden 90.5, WBSP Millinocket.
Get out of here, train.
WBEO Bethel 91.3, WMHD Greenville 89.7, MainePublic.org. Good morning. Coming up in about 15 minutes. About the budget reconciliation bill at 7 o'clock. Demery Gratz with Lady Father and Mickey Martinez. And this is Morning Edition on Maine Public Radio.
Hay and spray. Oh, they're gone on their own. All right, where's that spot?
Coming up in our next half hour, cutting funding for the federal agency ATF, the only agency that can
Can't remember.
The ability to show that a gun is involved in more than one crime helps police conduct very effective investigations. We need that to be well funded.
It's Wednesday.
Oh yeah, over what?
25. Former Philippine First Lady Imelda Marcos is 96. Sunny, hot again today. 80s for
Over
most.
here.
Showers and thunderstorms to bring more relief from the humidity.
Or will be, right?
World and national news is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The multi-trillion-dollar tax cut and spending bill is back in the House after passing the Senate yesterday in a tie-breaking vote by Vice President Vance. One senator who was undecided until the last minute was Alaska Republican Lisa Murkowski, who voted yes.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Won support for rural hospitals and food and
Should be here soon. Am I in the wrong place again? I can't remember. Oh my god, sliding around.
That in many parts of the country, there are Americans that are not going
Over
to
there, right?
I don't like it.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says the bill does more than just
Something.
leave some Americans less advantaged.
This dangerous and extreme Republican budget will result in Americans losing
Would have liked to
their
get in
lives
here earlier.
because of the
Where
inability
exactly
to
again?
access healthcare coverage.
Those big, the big green, green with the white. All right.
Several attorneys general are suing the Trump administration over sharing the personal data of Medicaid recipients with the Department of Homeland Security. NPR's Jude Joffe-Block reports.
Federal health officials turned over sensitive data about Medicaid recipients from a handful of states.
So I want to go towards
That's
this.
according to a report last month by the Associated Press. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, a Democrat, says that was illegal. The suit seeks to stop health officials from further sharing the data and to block its use for immigration enforcement. The Department of Health and Human Services says in a statement it does not comment on litigation, but last month it insisted the data sharing was legal and said it was part of a crackdown to ensure Medicaid funds are not subsidizing care for immigrants without legal status. Jude Joffe-Block, NPR News.
Gaza's health ministry says more than 400 people have been killed by Israeli forces while trying to reach food distribution sites.
All right, they're switching it up now.
NPR's Aya Batrawi reports aid groups.
That's my house. Oh, I haven't turned. Whoops. There we go.
US and Israel.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is receiving $30 million from the Trump administration,
Right
says
here.
its 4 sites are distributing aid
3
safely and securely to
places.
people in Gaza. But 178 groups, including Amnesty International, the Association for Civil Rights Israel, B'Tselem, and others, issued a joint call for Israel to end that system. They say that under the UN-led system, Gaza not 4, but 400 aid distribution points. Oxfam's policy lead in the Palestinian territories, Bushra Khalidi, says it's time to dismantle this, quote, death trap.
Simply funding or backing
Yay.
knowing the consequences is not just irresponsible.
8 minutes of this. Oh boy.
Israel's military says it's examining
Enjoy
around the 4 sites.
the next 8 minutes.
On Wall Street in pre-market trading, Dow futures are higher. This is NPR. The Trump administration
Hi there,
returned about
Arjuniverse.
National Guard troops to the control of the California governor. President
Our
Trump
Universe, or is that the right pronounce? Uh-oh.
Protests grew over
Not here. Oh, they're blasting me.
protests were peaceful, but a curfew was declared in a 1-mile zone of downtown LA after some protests turned violent. The curfew was ended after a few days. There's a partial verdict in the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean
Partial
Diddy Combs.
verdict.
As NPR's
Oh, someone's in here.
reports, the jury will keep deliberating on the most serious charge of racketeering.
See, and the things reappear when you go in a different house and come back.
Jurors around 4 p.m. that they had reached a verdict on 4 counts against Combs. This includes charges for sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution. But jurors say there are some, quote, unpersuadable opinions when it comes to the racketeering charge. That one accuses Combs of running a criminal enterprise that facilitated and concealed sex crimes for 2 decades. After receiving the note,
Not that house, I forgot.
around the once powerful hip-hop mogul who rubbed his eyes and looked down as they discussed the news. The judge has instructed jurors to continue deliberating in an effort to reach a verdict on the remaining charge. Isabella Gomez Sarmiento, NPR News.
Former
Nope.
State Department spokesman Richard Boucher has
Not
died of
very
cancer
good
at his
spots.
Virginia home, according to his family. He was 73. Boucher served 6 secretaries.
Which one was the
of
best
state
one?
during presidential administration.
The one without
He was
them. This
famed
one?
for his mastery of facts and his calm demeanor.
Someone's sitting there, but that doesn't matter.
This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Your Part-Time Controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting and committed to supporting nonprofits with financial management services such as budgeting and forecasting. yptc.com/NPR.
Good morning from Maine Public Radio at 7:06 on this Wednesday. Consumer incentives for home efficiency improvements would be axed in Trump's policy bill approved by senators yesterday.
Exciting.
President Fetcher is with the Natural Resources
Isn't it?
These are the
6.5 more
end
minutes.
up saving a lot of
These
time
aren't
in the
worth
long
that
term
much.
for families.
Whatever, I'll just keep doing it, right? I don't care.
Have a significant impact.
Homeowners have been able to get up to $2,000 to install heat pumps, improve insulation, or add energy-efficient appliances. The bill also strips tax incentives for commercial solar and wind development. The FBI last week arrested Nasib Hayden in Minnesota. He's a suspect in the killing of a Lewiston teenager last year. Ari Snyder has more.
Auden was pleaded not guilty in the murder of 17-year-old Sahal Maridi last July, according to state police. Court documents show police interviewed 23-year-old Auden shortly after the shooting, and that Auden had admitted to shooting Maridi while the two were, quote, struggling over control of a firearm. But police allowed Auden to leave following the interview as they continued their investigation. In May, Auden was indicted for murder and arrested by the FBI in Fridley, Minnesota in early June. Maridi's death reverberated across Lewiston as the city grappled with a spate of gun violence.
Nothing in the
city's Somali
kitchen.
community especially hard, where many remembered Maridi as a kind, caring, and supportive friend. For Maine Public Radio News, I'm Ari
What's
Snyder.
this weird place? Wow. Little nook.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Layla Falden.
And I'm A. Martinez. The Senate.
That's everything, I guess.
Mega bill yesterday. In a few minutes, we'll hear from Maine Governor Janet Mills.
It was on the
how
floor
she
blocks.
believes it could affect residents in her state. But first,
I don't know
we
what
have more
that
details
is.
on what's in the bill's latest version as it returns to the House.
The bill includes tax cuts and boosts border security and defense
Now I
programs.
gotta go
Here's Senate Majority
elsewhere.
Leader John Thune after the vote.
With this legislation, we're fulfilling the mandate we were entrusted with last November and setting our country and the American people up to be safer, stronger, and more prosperous.
But it's expected to add $3.3 trillion to the U.S. budget deficit through 2034. The House is planning to vote today as Republicans try to get the package to the president's desk by July 4th.
NPR congressional correspondent Deirdre Walsh is here now. So, Deirdre, how do the Senate GOP leaders finally get this thing over the finish line?
You know, it really came down to the wire. Vice President J.D. Vance had to break a tie to pass it.
No, I haven't.
GOP leaders could only lose 3
Oh, the
votes.
cops are coming
Susan
still.
Collins of Maine, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Tom
Ah,
Cotton of
just in
North
time.
Carolina all voted no. Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski was the
And they're
deciding
dead, so I
She
can go
supported
back
the tax
in.
cuts in this bill. It makes the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent, adds new temporary breaks like no tax on tips or overtime. But Murkowski raised big concerns about some of the spending cuts, especially the cuts to nutrition programs, and the nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. That's the healthcare program
$1
for low-income,
trillion?
elderly, and disabled. This bill adds work requirements and changes tax provisions for states that's going to impact how much states get from the federal government.
So, what did leaders do to convince Senator Murkowski to vote yes?
They doubled a fund to help rural hospitals from 25 to 50 million over 5 years. They made changes for nutrition benefits targeted just to help Alaska. Plus, Murkowski got a tax break for whalers. She called the decision agonizing. She said she didn't like the bill, but said she did what she thought helped Alaskans.
I needed help, and I worked to get that every single day. And did I get everything that I wanted? Absolutely not.
All right, so
Oh, hey, come on. What? Stop it.
House, I mean, they're aiming for what, later today?
Right. House Speaker Mike Johnson can't afford to lose more than 3 votes. He admitted last night weather is a factor. Flights have been delayed and canceled last night as members come back into D.C. for a vote expected today. Conservatives are threatening to vote no because the bill, as you said, adds more to the deficit. Moderates oppose the deeper Medicaid cuts. But as we've seen before, House Republicans tend to get in line behind Trump under pressure.
Okay, but they're rushing to pass this bill. Public opinion polls, though, show it's
That's it for this crappy house.
It really could be. You know, so far, the message from Republicans is Congress has to pass this to avoid a tax hike since these tax cuts expire at the end of this year. But that's really a complicated message. Most people won't see big changes in their paychecks, but a lot of working class voters who voted for Trump could potentially lose.
Where now?
The president argues that it's waste, fraud, and abuse that's being cut, but a nonpartisan scorekeeper estimated that close to 12 million people could lose their health care coverage. Democrats are already making this issue the central issue in the upcoming 2026 midterms. They say Republicans campaigned on
Oh, come
An
on.
independent analysis of this bill tax breaks are much bigger for those at the higher income levels than for working and middle class people.
That's NPR's Deirdre.
Go away, police. Come on.
As one of the 3 GOP senators who voted against the Republican tax and
I
spending
don't have a
bill
lot
was
of
Susan Collins
time.
of Maine. She says she voted no because
It's not
of
just
its,
going to
quote,
disappear.
harmful
Come
impacts
on.
Medicaid. Maine's Department of Health and Human Services estimates that more than 30,000 people would lose their health care coverage and up to 4 rural hospitals could close in the first year alone. For more on the bill's impact on Maine, we're joined by the state's Democratic Governor, Mills. Good morning, Governor. Thanks for being on the program.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Where now?
The Senate approved this
Do I even have enough time to do anything?
Maine residents. What are your concerns?
What? Go away.
Well, first of all, Medicaid.
That police star, good.
Problem. The cuts to Medicaid.
Anything up here?
$4.5 billion.
What the hell, man?
Over the next decade.
Is that my save point?
400,000 people, around 1.4 million people in Maine right now, use Medicaid for their health insurance.
I think it is.
That includes about 190,000 children. And
there's a place. I might be able to steal one thing.
For nutrition. That includes people, women.
Oh, come on.
Violence, having to leave their homes. It includes women and men in very difficult circumstances. The cost of administering the program, the SNAP program, being shifted onto the states, will result in about a $60 million a year.
Well, at least I killed all of them.
Now, Maine is not a wealthy state. We're a rural state.
I think.
People describe this bill as beautiful.
I didn't get their money. Whoa.
There's nothing pretty about cutting food to hungry children. Nothing pretty about preventing people from getting to their doctor when they have a health care problem, or preventing the being paid. Nothing pretty about threatening rural hospitals or driving up the cost of energy, especially in a state that relies on oil for heat now and depends so much on the fluctuating prices of petroleum products.
Governor, what are you going to do?
Oh, I should have parked closer. Oh, whatever, man. Leave it outside.
Well, good question. We just passed the state budget earlier week.
Enough time for one more.
And we'll be looking again at revenues and costs and trying to adjust changes here and there. I've been against raising taxes. I remain against raising taxes on Maine people.
Come on, just grab it, idiot. Don't walk all slow to it.
Low-income and middle-income people in Maine, the cost of
flashing chair, weird.
We removed a lot of people from Medicaid already and put them onto the Affordable Care Act, which is also cut in this bill.
Give me that.
So to put people on the Care Act in the marketplace and then say, well, we're going to take that away as well. These are working people who need health care. The cost of health care.
Oh, come on.
Is enormous to begin with. We can't be
pressing the stick.
We can't be shifting the cost to working families.
So there's not much the state can do, from what I understand from what you said?
No, I mean, look, and just the energy costs. Maine depends a lot, as I said, on heating oil, for heating, home heating and whatnot. And we've relied on a lot of the tax credits for renewable, alternative energy sources. And that's being cut as well.
Slow vehicle.
Take a real deep dive into revenues,
where is it? Where is it? I went pretty far up there.
Here's the president who promised when he was running for office that the economy would improve, that the cost of living would come down, and yet the cost of living has only gone up. This bill and the tariffs and other things associated with it has done nothing to bring down the cost of groceries, cars, construction materials, health.
Almost there.
Really quickly before I let you go, this legislation is going to the House. Do you have anything that you would say to Republican House members as they take this up?
Think carefully. What is the emergency about passing this bill? What is the emergency? Take your time, read all 900 and something pages, and think about the cost to your states. Every child who's going hungry.
970 pages.
To save their lives, to maintain their families. Go ahead.
That's Maine Governor Janet Mills. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Today would have been Medgar Evers' 100th birthday.
2880.
From Mississippi, slain at the age of 37, is remembered with tributes to his legacy. Mississippi Public Broadcasting, here's Shamir Muhammad.
Gotta do a lot more.
Veteran civil rights activist
Guess I'll go
James
save
Taylor,
somewhere
civil rights icon Medgar Wiley
multiple
Evers came to
times.
the Jackson Convention Complex this weekend to commemorate his 100th birthday. Rena Evers Everett is his only daughter.
It's tough. Growing up, I've been asked before, do you remember? I mean, I was 8.5 and my father was assassinated. You remember a lot at 8.5.
A World War II veteran, Evers returned to a home state punctuated by Jim Crow laws. In 1954,
Hopefully there aren't so many gang members next time.
in Mississippi. He helped register Black voters and led efforts to investigate
All
the
right.
murder of 14-year-old Emmett Till in
Where
Jewett,
are we?
Mississippi in 1955.
Going here.
Civil rights activist David
Go
Dennis
get
recalls
this
leading
first.
a meeting with Evers on June 12, 1963.
I remember the last thing I said to him. I told Nigga, I'm not going with you, get in that car with you, because somebody get killed getting in that car with you. And we laughed and we hugged. I see you tomorrow. 1 hour later, I got a call.
Evers was shot in the back and killed by a white segregationist. Evers was only 37. His death is credited with helping pass the 1964 Civil Rights Act. At one event, Howard University professor Nicole Hannah-Jones, who authored the much-debated 1619 Project, told civil rights veterans their fight can serve as a guide in the current political climate.
I know it feels very dark. It is, but we have power. I can't imagine when y'all began that you thought you could actually topple racial apartheid in the United States, and yet you did.
For 20-year-old Joycelyn McCoy, hearing from civil rights veterans gave her pause.
I think a lot of the same evils and prejudices that Medgar and his constituents had to deal with are unfortunately recirculating, and so there is the opportunity, of course, to use the history books as a point of innocence.
The event organizers say they hope the 100-year birthday celebrations do more than just underscore Medgar Evers' contributions to the civil rights movement.
Save over here. Maybe there's houses I can break into.
This is NPR News.
Listener-supported Maine Public Radio. Good morning to you at 19 minutes after 7
Get
o'clock.
out.
In 15 minutes, President Trump on the latest ceasefire in the Mideast.
You make Morning Edition possible with help from Central Maine Healthcare, committed to securing the future of healthcare for Central, Western, and Mid-Coast Maine. Learn more at cmhc.org. And the Lunder Foundation, founding partner of Maine Public Radio and Maine Public Classical.
As we approach 20 after 7, Lou McNally is back for another look at the weather. And Lou, another nice hot summer day in store, I guess.
Yeah, we're already up to 70 degrees or better in most all reporting stations in the Pine Tree State. And the last of the
My God.
have cleared the area. Actually,
I think I took the annoying way to get there.
But along the front itself, there are still a few scattered showers and thunder showers.
Oh, this isn't it.
From Seacoast, New Hampshire, down towards Cape Ann, Massachusetts. So if you're traveling southbound today, you'll run into that. That'll be slowly clearing as well. But
What
basically,
the hell?
high temperatures up into the 80s and still humid. That cold front didn't get all of the humid air out of here, but there's another one on the way tomorrow, which is going to bring some scattered showers and thunderstorms, some of which may be
Come on.
heavy rain.
Get out of my way, everyone. Oh, it's at a wall? Yeah, of course. How do I get off this stupid crap? Oh, how'd I end up here?
In the 70s to near 80 degrees, those scattered showers and thunder showers. We drop into the 50s tomorrow night. High temperatures on Friday and Saturday are only up in the 70s, maybe touching 80 in spots by Saturday and Sunday, but it's going to be cooler and drier and much more comfortable. Keeping an eye on tropical moisture down around Florida, but it doesn't look like that'll be threatening us. So I can say at this point, looks like the best 4th of July weekend we've had in a while. That's the way it looks from here.
What time we got? 7?
And from
21.
Records with Barbra Streisand's new album, The Secret of Life, Partners Volume 2, featuring 11 duets with Paul McCartney, Ariana Grande, Bob Dylan, James Taylor, Hozier, and others. Available where music is sold. From the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, supporting creative people and
17, 2 more minutes.
committed to building a more just, verdant, and
Whoops.
peaceful world. More information is at macfound.org. From Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, which monitors safe driving habits to determine a personalized rate, at progressive.com, not available in California or from all agents. And from listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Martinez.
And I'm
Less than 2 minutes. All right.
Last summer, the U.S. announced a major coup in the war on drugs, the arrest of Ismael Zambada, perhaps Mexico's biggest drug lord. Zambada, known as El Mayo, is now awaiting trial in the United States. In Mexico, his arrest has unleashed a regional war that has killed more than 1,000 people. More than 1,000 are missing, too. NPR's Ada Peralta reports from the state of Sinaloa, and a warning, this story is about 6 minutes and has graphic descriptions of violence.
It used to be a totally different city, a vibrant nightlife full of clubs and big bands. But all of that ended when this war started last September. All the bands split up, and now musicians play on street corners for the traffic. Jose Guadalupe Tapia Beltran used to play with one of the biggest bands in Culiacán. Now, who are we supposed to play for, he says. The guys who used to pay for the music are now killing each other. Tapia is 85 years old. He spent his life playing music. His band, Los Coyunquis, lived large. They were hired by the big drug dealers to play parties and to write songs about their exploits. And now
we're supposed to feel bad for them.
To be able to eat a taco. Tapia grabs his sticks. These days, there isn't even much traffic. But he plays anyway. Guillermo Ibarra Escobar, who teaches public policy at the Autonomous University of Sinaloa, says for decades before this conflict began, the Mexican government and the cartels had a symbiotic relationship, meaning that there was a political understanding between the authorities,
nobody, there's one.
That made sense.
Two, let's hope these are two good ones.
And the politicians and businesses enjoyed some profit.
Probably a bunch of those dudes
around
too.
2008, those understandings began to crumble and fissures began to emerge in the Sinaloa.
9 minutes, all right,
Then,
maximum.
Last summer, in an operation led
over
by
9 minutes.
Mexico's biggest drug lord, El Mayo Zambada, was lured into a meeting in Sinaloa. He was bounded on a plane and flown to the U.S., where he was thrown in jail. Una celada.
Sloppy.
It was an ambush in a place where Zambada had an impunity.
Now go to the other house.
So the operation was a bombshell that challenged every bit of the alliances that had been formed for decades. The operation,
come on, load on up.
Was a mistake because it happened at a time when organized crime was ascendant, when they had burrowed their way into all parts of society and government.
Take something.
So Zambada's capture unleashed a ruthless war that's upended everything from the economy to life itself. And the signs of that war.
Where'd it go? Oh, I parked it in there good, huh?
There are nearly daily gun battles, sometimes in the middle of cities. And across the parents look for children who have gone missing.
Now I think the stuff reappears, right? Yeah.
She and her civilian search group are digging through a huge septic
Pick
tank.
it up. Pick it up.
Tip from a survivor that organized crime groups had been stuffing
Stuck in the
bodies
corner.
into a municipal septic tank. One of the searchers pushes a stick through the muck. Maybe it's a boot, he says. This was
do this for 8.5 more minutes.
Bodies which floated to the top of the tank when they opened it. But we know there are fragments of other bodies down there, she says.
Pick it up quicker, idiot.
Them out is to suck all of the wastewater and scum
I'm doing something wrong, I think.
Sift through it. They do it with a back truck, which fills up its tank and then dumps the contents onto a nearby field, where volunteers use a rake to sift through the slush. The smell of human waste and decomposition burns your lungs, But every once in a while, they do find something, a pair of ribs, something that looks like finger bones, then a whole shoulder blade. Bernal looks on with no emotion. She's been on searches like this since her son went missing in 2017. It's a torture she has learned to live through.
Quisiéramos que fuera el nuestro y a la vez no.
Sometimes you wish it's your son, but at the same time, you really hope it's not. Violence is nothing new in Sinaloa. This is the land where cartels publish videos of them beheading their rivals with small knives, making sure they suffer, making sure the video is horrific enough to put fear into hearts. Over the years, Bernal has seen a lot. It used to be that the narcos used to fight each other in the mountains.
Aquí esta guerra ya no nada más era el pleito entre ellos, sino también se llevan a gente que no tiene nada que ver con la delincuencia.
Now, she says, they pick up people who have nothing to do with them. The man who called them on this search, she says, was a civilian. He told them he was stopped at a checkpoint, shot once, and left for dead inside the septic tank. He waited 24 hours before he dared to crawl out and call for help.
Creo que no hay sentimientos, no hay valores.
We've lost all feelings, she says. We've lost our values.
No tenemos ya amor por la humanidad.
This war, she says, has killed our love for humanity. Peter Peralta, NPR News, in the state of Sinaloa, Mexico.
Repetitive. Oh, it's only been a minute and a half since I paid attention to the time.
Tomorrow on Morning Edition, DIY guns that you can make at home from a kit are called ghost guns because they're almost untraceable. They don't come with serial numbers. Defense Distributed is one of the pioneering makers of those kits. They're back in federal court trying to end restrictions on ghost guns, even though the Supreme Court upheld regulations from the Biden administration, essentially banning manufacturers from selling them. Listen tomorrow morning on the radio, in the NPR app, or on your smart speaker. Just ask for this public radio station by name.
Yeah. Oh, this is pretty,
This is NPR News.
Sometimes moving abroad can give you a clearer insight into certain parts
next
of your
time goes slower doing this, doesn't it?
number of Americans who have left the U.S. to roam the world as digital workers.
People from different countries have definitely pointed out that apparently I talk a lot.
I'm Elsa Chang, seeing American culture from abroad on All Things Considered from NPR News.
All Things Considered this afternoon beginning at 4, right here on Maine Public Radio.
Thank you for supporting Morning Edition on Maine Public Radio. Thanks also to Down East Acadia Regional
Oh,
Tourism,
man.
inviting you to sign up
Looks
for
like
their
it's
next
frozen, doesn't it?
today. Stay in the know
But
at
it's just loading.
and IAE, presenting An Evening with David Sedaris at the 1932 Criterion Theater on July 12th. Tickets at davidsedarisontour.com.
They keep getting new things and having them get stolen again. They don't know what's going on.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is pledging to
Oh, I replaced my stolen TV.
bill over the finish line before the end of the week. The package is now
Maybe they have a bunch of them in one of their closets or
the bill
something.
yesterday with some changes. Vice President Vance cast the tie-breaking vote after 3 Republican senators voted no. Rand Paul of Kentucky, Susan Collins of Maine, and Tom
What?
Tillis of North Carolina. Julie Robner is the chief Washington
Whatever.
correspondent
Would I take everything out of it? What's going
Congressional
on?
Budget Office predicts the bill will result in millions more
I think I
people
messed
losing their
up.
health coverage, something Democratic lawmakers have objected to.
Right now, there are about 26 million Americans with no health insurance. That would go up by a third because of this bill. So an additional 12 million uninsured in 2034. And that doesn't even count several million more people who could lose coverage as a result of changes.
Why
to
isn't
other
that one
programs,
open?
like the private plan sold on the Affordable
Whatever,
Care
let's
Act.
go to this one.
Republicans, including President Trump, have been touting the bill's extension of tax cuts passed by Congress during Trump's first term in the White House as well as new tax breaks. Evacuations are reported, but no injuries after last night's explosion at a fireworks factory in Northern California. That blast sparked
that was
wildfire.
close.
This is NPR News.
And this is Maine Public Radio News. Good morning. I'm Erwin Gratz. It's 7:31. The budget reconciliation bill passed the Senate.
Can't jump with a
Eliminates Medicaid
TV.
reimbursements to healthcare providers who perform abortions.
Oh, it opened up
Family
again, did it?
Planning is a
No.
nonprofit that offers abortion, but in addition, birth control, cancer screening, sexually transmitted disease testing,
Come
and treatment,
on.
and annual wellness exams. Chief Executive George Hill says Medicaid reimbursements account for 25% of the nonprofit's budget and serve patients in federally designated
4
Medicaid
more
underserved areas
minutes.
in
Oh
Ellsworth,
my.
Fulton, and Presque Isle.
This is a statewide impact, and I think what they're doing is basically strangling the healthcare system up here.
Where did
Measure a backdoor approach to banning abortion in states like Maine that recognize abortion as
Where'd I put the stupid vehicle?
Planned Parenthood of Northern New England says go undetected, birth control will be harder to access, and patients' health will be compromised. The measure is now before the House for a vote. Governor Mills has put on hold a bill that would have limited police collaboration with immigration authorities. The governor is going to wait until the legislature reconvenes and then either veto
I went in the wrong one, didn't I?
without her signature. Gubernatorial spokesman Ben Goodman tells the Portland Press Herald while the governor understands why the legislature endorsed the measure,
Where the hell am I?
it's overly broad and confusing. The Trump administration
Now go
is withholding
across the
some federal
road.
aid from schools around the country, including Maine's. The Federal Education Department said it's reviewing some $6 billion in aid to public schools to ensure, quote, taxpayer resources are spent in accordance with the president's priorities and the department's statutory responsibilities, unquote. Maine's Education Department has told school districts they may not see any of the frozen federal grant money until September. Scientists say Maine potato crops are at high risk for late blight, a destructive disease that devastated Maine's potatoes in 2009.
What? I went back inside. Oh my God. Come on.
Have increased the potential for late blight, according to the University of Maine Cooperative Extension Potato Pest Alert. The euro is trading this morning at 17.76 US, the British pound at $1.37.02 US, and the Canadian dollar at 73.28 cents American.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, for nearly a century supporting efforts to promote a just, equitable, and sustainable society. More at mott.org. From the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, supporting books, radio, podcasts, film, television, theater, and more to bridge science and the humanities. And from Eric and Wendy Schmidt, through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm E. Martinez in Culver City, California.
And I'm Leila Fadel in New York
Cash.
President Trump says Israel has agreed to a 60-day
Pick it up.
ceasefire in Gaza, but we have not heard directly from either the Israeli government or
Oh my God. 2 more minutes. Seem like 5 hours. What?
Good morning. So Trump says Israel has said yes to a deal. But
Whatever.
from Israel or Hamas, how close are
I wasn't paying attention, I guess.
do we know? So, yes,
Oh my God, they're in like full force for this star level. Come on.
Productive meetings with the Israelis. Trump said that Israel agreed to necessary conditions to finalize the ceasefire. A person briefed by Israeli officials who
Good, thank you, Car.
were not authorized to speak to the media said Israeli officials believe that
Lose the heat, no crap.
Netanyahu meets President Trump in the White House, likely on Monday. An Israeli-U.S. agreement will be
Oh, it's going to be annoying to get there.
ceasefire talks. But now, let's just be very clear. This doesn't mean a ceasefire.
Yeah, there we go.
It's just about setting
Whip it around.
for entering ceasefire talks. And like I said, it's unclear whether Hamas will be on board. There hasn't been an official statement from the group since Trump made his comments yesterday. But on social media, Trump said that if Hamas doesn't accept the deal, quote, it will only get worse, meaning the deal will become less favorable for them.
Yeah, and just a reminder, I mean, this is coming nearly 2 years into the war.
Where is it?
What's in this deal?
It's actually very similar to a deal proposed by
Oh,
the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff months ago. It's a 60-day ceasefire in exchange for Hamas releasing
directly
10
north from
living
where I'm
hostages. That's
pointing.
half the number of living hostages Israel says are being held in Gaza today. Now, that person briefed said that during the ceasefire, there will be a partial Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza.
Go away.
Now, the sticking point has always been that Hamas insists on guarantees to permanently end the war, and Israel has only agreed to a temporary ceasefire. Trump said yesterday that after a ceasefire begins, the U.S. would, quote, work with all parties to end the war.
Yay, I needed
mediators and the U.S.
unload.
For talks towards the completion of the war, but Israel is currently not committing to it.
Now, Israel, Hamas, all the mediators, including the U.S., have been
Get my
trying to get to
armor
this
while
point
I'm at it.
4 months. So what's changed?
I mean, simply put, American pressure. Israel and the U.S. are signaling that they're trying to use the momentum of what they see was a victory in Iran during the war there the past couple of weeks to reach a Gaza ceasefire and even bigger moves in the region. You know, the person briefed said that there will be talks about a potential security agreement between Israel and Syria.
I ought to kill you.
Had a hostile relationship
I don't
for
feel like
decades.
it.
Trump also wants
Kill her. I'll get soda. That's it.
Those are a number of treaties that normalize relations between Israel
Get some more.
and countries, including Saudi Arabia, but it's unlikely that Arab
Oh, what? Come on.
the war in Gaza ends. Now, this is another thing. Netanyahu has refused to accept a full end to the war, mainly because his far-right coalition partners in government
You can't run with a soda in his hand or while he's drinking it.
the war ends. So we're going to need to see how this coalition receives this version of a ceasefire deal. And by the way, the Israeli parliament goes into recess later this month. And
no police interference.
That's when Netanyahu could actually make moves to end the war, and the far right won't be able to topple his coalition during that summer recess.
NPR's Hadil El-Shalchi in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Hadil.
You're very welcome.
The Trump administration is restructuring the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
Officials say they plan to make changes to gun regulations.
I'm glad he didn't bother me, though.
Budget.
NPR criminal justice reporter Meg Anderson is here to break down.
Oops, I took a bad way, right?
Yeah, well, first, as a reminder, ATF is the country's main regulator of the gun industry. They investigate illegal gun trafficking. They inspect gun dealers to make sure they're following the law. And we know that 2 weeks ago, DOJ began working with ATF on around 50 regulatory changes.
I'm getting there, though.
Many of them aim to loosen gun regulations. That's according to people I spoke with who are familiar with the matter.
Get more Desert Eagle ammo.
To avoid retaliation. The changes include things like making a background check for a firearm purchase valid for 60 days instead of 30. Another allows gun dealers to destroy records after 20 years rather than keeping them indefinitely. And the people I spoke to told me,
Oops, I didn't need to bring this here. It was stupid.
They might not seem huge, but taken together, a pattern of gun deregulation begins to emerge.
Yeah, the Department of Justice, they oversee the ATF. They've also proposed a 25% cut to ATF's budget next year. What would that do to the agency?
Almost there.
One really big thing it would do is cut more than 500 investigators.
Whoop.
That's according to the DOJ's proposed budget. Those are the people that conduct inspections of gun dealers. Lauren Hicks was chief counsel at the agency until February when she was fired. She said those inspectors help ensure gun dealers are keeping accurate records, and that is key to solving violent crime.
And the reason
how much money?
They be accurate is so that people who shouldn't have guns don't have guns.
$6,000.
Trace the gun because of crappy records. Then that's a problem for law enforcement.
The agency declined my request.
All right, let's back out.
In a statement, ATF said it is going to reduce, quote, unnecessary regulatory burdens so it can focus its enforcement on violent criminals.
Whoops.
How do police feel about these cuts?
Yeah, well, ATF is the only
Want to go back there.
the ability to trace guns involved in crimes. And so police use that information from ATF all the time. The agency
How do I get there?
The markings left on a bullet or casing after it's been fired in a crime. It's basically like a guns.
Take this road.
I spoke with Brandon Del Pozo
All right.
about this. He used to be the police chief in Burlington, Vermont.
The ability to show
statistics. Let's take a look.
That a gun that appeared at this crime scene, then appeared on that rooftop, helps police conduct very effective investigations. We need that to be well funded.
Bill Pozo said the administration's cuts to this agency are directly at odds with its claim that it's tough on crime.
So what happens now?
So the administration has said it's not done with its plan
Stamina,
to
respect.
transform the agency, and Congress is getting involved too. The big
Sex
tax
appeal and
spending bill
muscle.
that passed yesterday. That includes a provision that removes on gun silencers.
Driving skills getting good.
Strongly oppose.
Halfway at least.
Meg Anderson, Meg, thank you.
You're welcome.
Money, weapons, crimes, 33 items. How much money have I made on it?
This is NPR News.
201. How many did I waste?
Israel's foreign minister says any opportunity to free the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza should not be missed. Gideon Saar's comments came after Donald Trump said Israel had agreed to finalize a deal on hostage releases and a 60-day ceasefire. The BBC's Will David is in
354.
Jerusalem.
The devil will be in the detail. It's okay for Mr. Trump to announce a broad agreement with the Israelis, but the key thing is finding out what the details are. And most people in Israel will want
10 jumps.
60-day
Found and done.
the release of most, if not all, of the remaining hostages being held in Gaza. For the Hamas Palestinian delegations, the key thing is going to be some sort of long-term peace deal.
Meanwhile, Iran's president has formally signed into law a bill suspending Tehran's cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA. It follows US and Israeli attacks on nuclear facilities and scientists. And a 4-year inquiry in the Australian state of Victoria has found that European settlers committed genocide against its indigenous peoples.
Packages.
11 British ships arrived in Australia in 1788, marking the beginning of
No, it doesn't tell you how much.
Australia's first truth-telling commission said mass
Annoying.
killings, child removal, and forced assimilation had led to the near-complete destruction of Indigenous communities in Victoria.
I'm Jonathan Fruin at the BBC in London.
And I'm Erwin Gratz, Maine Public Radio News. Good morning. Maine and 15 other states are suing the U.S. Department of Education over recent funding cuts for mental health services in K-12 schools. After the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, Congress approved $1 billion to add more mental health providers in schools across the country. But Attorney General Aaron Fry says in April, the Federal Education Department sent notices to states saying the funding would be rescinded because the grants no longer met the priorities of the Trump administration. Fry says Maine would lose more than $3 million in grant funding used to hire or retain 14 school mental health professionals. He says last year, 5,000 students in the state received mental health services due to the grant. The states are asking a federal judge to rule the funding cuts are illegal and a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act and the U.S. Constitution. They're also seeking an injunction to restore the funding. Morning edition time is reported at 8.
Oh, it's only going to be 16 or so. Let's check my weapon stats. Oh, go away. I guess I'll go inside and do it. Hey, man, that's mine. Thank you. Hey. Stealing my shit? I don't think so, dude.
Equitable and sustainable future. And from the William T. Grant Foundation, supporting research to improve the lives of young people at WTGrantFDN.org.
This morning edition from
Wow, come on, get a gun out.
I'm Layla Thalden. The Dalai Lama, the leader of Tibetan Buddhism, turns 90 on Sunday.
Hopefully the police just go away. I don't feel like driving to this stupid thing. Oh, it's going down like this, huh?
And that no one else can get in the way of that. This is at the heart of a long-running dispute between him and the Chinese government, which claims authority over the Dalai Lama's succession. NPR's Anthony Kuhn has
Over and
reported on Tibet for us for many years, and he joins us
Up
now
and
from
over.
Tokyo to talk about this. Good morning, Anthony.
Hi, Layla.
So what did the Dalai Lama say?
Well, he met with senior monks from different Tibetan Buddhist sects in Dharamsala, India today, and then he read a statement that addresses the question of whether or not he should reincarnate, which in Tibetan Buddhism is something that the Dalai Lama and other high-ranking lamas get to choose.
Where's my armor?
Wouldn't he reincarnate?
Way back there. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. A little bit.
The chances of him ever returning to Tibet are slim, and he wants to
What am I doing?
institution of the Dalai Lama from political interference. So he decided that the Tibetan
Alright.
people want him to be reincarnated.
Just wasting the time.
The process of recognizing the next
On the
Dalai
waste
Lama will be
time.
handled by his office, and nobody else gets to interfere.
What was China's response to this?
They
Oh,
have been
there's
saying
the
for a long
armor.
time that the Dalai Lama is not who he appears to be. He's a political exile, he's a separatist, and he's not qualified to represent the Tibetan people. So today, a foreign ministry spokesperson said that China passed a law in 2007 that says the process of finding and
Police
recognizing
aren't very heavy at the moment.
reincarnations has to take place in China, and it must be approved by the central government.
Pointing right
so
at
basically,
it.
they're saying that the Dalai Lama should
Almost.
stick to Tibetans' own religious
North.
rules, even though the two sides don't exactly agree what they are.
Okay, I mean, this sounds confusing. Could China then appoint its own Dalai Lama and then there's two?
Yes, it could happen, and it could get
The
confusing.
Dalai
Let's remember
Lama.
that there are already two rival Panchen Lamas and two rival Karmapa Lamas, who are the second and third highest-ranking clerics in Tibetan Buddhism, one each
Oh,
recognized by the
That's
Dalai
where I
Lama and
went,
the Chinese government.
that's where I went wrong the last time, I think.
The next Dalai Lama. So I asked
Oh,
Lobsang
blasted.
Sangye about this. He's a visiting senior fellow at Harvard Law School. He's also the former president of the Tibetan government in exile. And he says that the choice for most Tibetans is pretty clear.
It is a matter of faith, something personal, something deep from your heart. So yes, Chinese government will have faith in
Alright.
Lama if when they think Dalai Lama
Don't mess
will
around, right?
see that
I don't have much time to get back.
He's saying that
Which means going which way?
Okay. No, China's
Down
ruling
here.
Communist Party is
Take.
officially atheist. Why are they
Alright.
getting involved in whose soul
Yeah,
goes
really.
where?
They don't get down to it at that level, but they're claiming the secular authority to approve the selection of all religious leaders. So they have a similar problem with the Catholic Church over whether the Vatican or Beijing gets to approve new bishops. Both Buddhists and Catholics try to work with Beijing on this, but none of them wants to give up the final say.
That's NPR's Anthony Kuhn joining us from Tokyo. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna lose some time to get to do this stupid burglary crap. Oh well, maybe a minute or so less.
This is NPR News.
And you're listening to Morning Edition on Listeners.
Losing muscle, that means I need food or something, right?
Approach 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Time once again to look at our weather forecast. As it turns out, not a lot of change from yesterday, maybe a tad less humid, but highs will still get well into the 80s with some sunshine today. Lou McNally is telling us it'll be the showers tomorrow that will begin to finally usher in cooler and drier air that we'll experience on the 4th of July, when high temperatures are more likely to be in the 70s.
I forgot it doesn't take long to save. I
Why is it
stared up
that
at
some
the
people
wall.
defy the odds and escape chronic diseases?
Oh, I
well
hate
into
that.
old
Why does the
age?
screen
Basically,
do,
if you're over
camera
85,
screen do
you
that?
don't have any of the three major age-related diseases, cancer, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative, then you've made it into the super ager group.
I'm Deborah Becker, The Secrets of Superagers. That's on the next On Point.
And you can join us for On Point that begins this morning at 10, right after BBC NewsHour here on Maine Public Radio.
Good, right here.
On the next Maine Calling, the
Try not
oldest
to mess it
buildings
up
in
this
Maine.
time.
I'm Jennifer Rooks. Within their walls lie centuries of history and family stories.
Stop doing
Our
that, you
experts discuss
stupid
the
computer.
fascinating buildings still standing in communities from York to Machias, many from the 1700s, and what their
Pick it up
backstories
quick.
reveal about the history of this region. Maine Calling, Wednesday, live at 11 and again at 8.
It's doing
on
it
Maine
again.
Public Radio.
Morning Edition is made possible by contributing listeners
Whoop.
with help from Ellen Doman, who believes that free and unfettered public access to information is a fundamental underpinning to a democratic society. And Evergreen Home Performance.
Yeah, why does it do
helping
that?
homeowners with energy audits, installation, and financing with Efficiency Mainstream Bank. More at evergreenyourhome.com.
Pick it up.
We'll update Congress's plans on taxes on Social Security benefits.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden Password
Oh,
Manager,
8
designed to
minutes
offer
of
secure
this
password management at
garbage.
this summer's events and festivals.
Did I
from
even
any
put it
seat,
in there?
section, or
Come on.
sideline. Available at bitwarden.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. The House of Representatives could vote as soon as today on the big tax and spending bill. One strand of this, President Trump says the legislation gets rid of taxes on Social Security benefits. The details are more complex. Here's
Taxes, I don't,
The
whatever.
legislation creates
Come on,
temporary
pick it up.
deduction for people over
What?
65.
Yeah, I screwed up. I'm just going to load it. Who cares?
In the House bill, the House will be voting on the Senate version of the
Come
legislation.
on.
The temporary new deduction applies to all of a senior's income, not just Social Security. It phases out for higher income taxpayers. The lowest income seniors won't be affected, as they already pay no taxes on their Social Security benefits. The White House Council of Economic Advisors estimates that if the bill passes, 88%
Less
of
enthused
receiving Social Security won't pay any taxes
at the moment to be doing this robbery crap.
funding Social Security. And the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget estimates the new bill would speed up the insolvency of Social Security and Medicare by a year to 2032, causing an across-the-board cut to benefits of around 24%. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
An investigation finds that a handful of states that operate Affordable Care Act marketplaces were sharing
Maybe that's a better
private health
spot.
information with tech companies like LinkedIn and Google, apparently accidentally. This is
Oh, my vehicle.
The Markup and Cal Matters.
I forgot the
Ross
vehicle
Papadakis
wouldn't
is
be
the
there.
journalism engineer. He helped uncover this, and he spoke with our
Oops.
program, Marketplace Tech.
We found that California was leaking.
Well, I guess I can wait to do that.
After we published our findings on that investigation, we decided to check.
He doesn't get tired easily anyway. Look at that.
That also operate their own healthcare exchanges.
Did I finish it and it didn't tell me?
4 additional states sharing data.
Now he's getting slower now.
Rhode Island, Nevada.
He can go a long time.
And
You got some stamina, huh?
without realizing they were sharing data.
All right.
So yes, all the exchanges that responded to our question said that this data sharing was inadvertent.
I'm gonna go make a lot of money.
For various purposes to help them reach.
It's gonna be very repetitive. Oh, really?
Of their states, or to track visitors' activity on their sites.
You made me kill. Oh,
people were using their sites and
that guy got shot in the crossfire.
Campaigns.
Tomas Apodaca
Look at
crunched
him
the
pinned
numbers
up
for the
there.
Cal
Ugh, he
Matters
fell down.
Markup report. He spoke
Where's his
with
gun?
Vasafo. Go to
There's his money.
marketplacetech.org for more of that conversation. In a few minutes, we'll get the ADP payroll company's data on new hiring in June. It's expected to look strong, but it can be out of sync with the official hiring and unemployment reports coming tomorrow. Right now,
Bland.
S&P futures
What am
are
I doing?
slightly
All right, let's go.
NASDAQ futures are little changed.
Take a break from that.
Report is supported by Progressive
Whatever.
Insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Customers can simplify their insurance needs
Oh,
with
come on,
technology
making me
from
miss
bundling
shots.
home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com.
June was Pride Month in the U.S. We've reported on enthusiasm up, but corporate sponsorships down in a number of U.S. cities. London Pride is coming this next weekend, and even in the U.K., some funding is off. Elizabeth Hodson, Marketplace BBC, filed this report for us.
The second Trump administration has brought with it a rollback of diversity, equity and inclusion policies, as well as restrictions of rights for trans and gender non-conforming people. The political and policy climate has led to some big names cutting funding for Pride initiatives and parades, and not just in the US. Tim
Get
Roberts
my
is
armor
director
while
of
I'm here, I
marketing at
guess.
Pride in London, the UK's biggest Pride event.
So what we've seen
Oop,
both in
not quite. Where's the shortcut?
also at a wider UK level is that corporations and big organisations are pulling
There.
funding. Some of these being American organisations or international organisations who have lost their DEI budget. And I think there's also
I'm in the wrong.
organisations to use this cultural shift to step away.
There's long been a concern that
It's
big names
down
use Pride
there.
sponsorship
Whatever, I
and
need
racing
to
in general as a quick
kind of
way
go
to
that
sell
way
products
anyhow.
to the LGBTQ community. Kerry Nicholson, who identifies as non-binary, is Chief Operating Officer at marketing consultancy Brand Champions.
You can't just put a rainbow on something and expect it to sell and expect the LGBTQ community to feel like you're supporting them.
Kerry says it's time for a reset. Not getting rid of corporate involvement altogether, but thinking more about how their values
Over
align
here,
with
I keep missing
LGBTQ
it.
causes.
You almost need to go back to
Missing
basics. Look at what's
everything.
going on internally. Do you have good employee resource groups that support the LGBT community? You really need to start there before you start going out to the world.
And in the current economy, there's also the flip side. If you're a big company sponsoring a Pride event, will your dollars actually translate into extra sales? Dr. Matt Johnson, a professor of marketing and psychology at Holt International Business School in Boston, isn't sure.
Certainly, members of that specific consumer group may be more likely to buy from a brand that openly
doing
espouses
bad.
those values, but consumers tend to be very, very habitual with their spending. They tend to be
Maybe
very
this vehicle's a little more
especially in times of inflation.
nimble.
Yeah, of course, we'd like, in the abstract sense, a company that maybe espouses certain values, but we also love a deal.
Despite the wider challenges, there are companies that are still keen to get involved in Pride events.
Those
Hugo Remy is the
grenades.
boss of PridePay, a finance app launching later this year. It's the new lead sponsor of Pride in London.
Kind of a
and
waste
Remy
of
has a
time,
very
though. I think
pragmatic
I have
approach to
enough
corporate
now. I think
funding
you
in general.
early on they make you take Molotovs. You have to replace your massive amount
There's
of
also a
grenades.
personal reason behind the Latvia-born CEO's involvement.
I'm bisexual myself. I feel free and secure being gay. I can talk about this in my home country, still can't. I always try to be honest with myself, first of all, and with the other people. I know that when you have an opportunity to change something, you should use this opportunity.
So while some
Like
corporations
here,
have stepped
no, I'm
back from
going there.
contributing to events, others are relishing the opportunity and representation Pride presents. In London,
Whoop,
I'm the
I don't need
BBC's
that
Elizabeth
stinking
Hobson
marker.
for Marketplace.
And there's news this morning. The owner of CBS will pay $16 million to settle a lawsuit over a Kamala Harris interview aired on 60 Minutes last fall. Donald Trump claimed the editing was misleading. Paramount says there will be no apology or statement of regret. The $16 million will go to fund a Trump presidential library. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio, the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.
From listener-supported Maine Public
Now
Radio.
time to do some more repetitive
We're
stuff.
celebrating the love of music this summer by collecting gently used band instruments for young music students across Maine. If you have an instrument that's been collecting dust in your attic, closet, or cellar, please consider donating it. Instrument donations will be accepted throughout the months of July and August in our Portland, Bangor, and Lewiston locations. For complete details of Maine Public's musical instrument drive, visit mainepublic.org. Click on Community, and thanks. This is
Why does the screen do that?
Fort Kent 106.5, WMEM Presque Isle 106.1, WBSP Millinocket 90.1, WMHG Greenville 89.7, WMEB Calais 89.7, WMEH Bangor 90.9, WMEW Waterville 91.3, WBEO Bethel 91.3, WMEP Camden 90.5, WMEA Portland 90.1.
Oh, am I going the right way?
Good morning. Governor Mills says there's nothing beautiful about the budget bill passed by the Senate yesterday. It's 8 o'clock. I'm Erwin Gratz, and you're listening to Morning Edition on Maine Public Radio. The budget bill is now back in the U.S. House. President Trump says Israel has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. So far, Hamas has not gone that far. Coming up later this half hour.
Teasing it up here.
He made the transition from being an itinerant evangelist to radio and then television, which allowed him to be everywhere at once. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. In Rockport, partly sunny and 86 today. Tonight, partly cloudy down to 62.
Oh, I don't have that much.
Tomorrow, there'll be some showers and thunderstorms later in the day with a high of 79 degrees.
I have 40.
The national news is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Cole. The parent company of 60 Minutes has struck a deal with President Trump to pay his feature library $16 million. This is to settle his lawsuit over an interview last fall with then Vice President Kamala Harris. As NPR's David Folkenflik reports, Paramount Global's controlling owner, Sherry Redstone,
Get it all that I can.
as she tries to sell the company.
Legal observers interviewed by NPR say Trump's lawsuit was meritless, even laughable. But it mattered because the sale has to be approved by the Federal Communications Commission.
Which one am I? Five finger, the guy at the bottom.
So-called news distortion. Trump alleged election interference because 60
Probably
Minutes
not.
used two different parts of Harris's answer to a question
Looking
about
good though.
Israel-Hamas conflict for two different shows.
Beginner's luck, maybe.
Producer of 60 Minutes,
Yeah, look at him go. Oh, here comes a blue one up on him. Oh yeah.
Settlement or apology.
Yeah, I won.
The way for the deal, which includes Trump's legal costs.
Beginner's luck. The first time I do it, I win. All right, time to save it.
Bill that the Senate narrowly passed yesterday. One senator.
How much do I have now?
Moment to vote yes was Alaska Republican Lisa Murkowski.
471,903.
Nutrition programs and the $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid.
$471,903. I'll take it.
Appeal to Murkowski and win her vote.
They doubled a fund to help rural hospitals from 25 to 50 million over 5 years.
It'll be time for some celebratory gunfire soon.
Just to help Alaska. Plus, Murkowski had a
like now.
Whalers.
Hope I didn't kill anyone though.
Agonizing. She said she didn't like the
hey, I won.
She did what she thought.
I'm rich almost. Oh, good.
A new forecast
I'll take your money too.
Likely to see a net outflow of immigrants this year. It would be
hey,
the first
you.
time since at least 1960. NPR's Scott Horsley reports that could be a drag on both the economy and on job growth.
Researchers from the Brookings Institution and the American Enterprise Institute project the number of people coming into the U.S. this year will drop by at least 2.5 million compared to 2024 as the Trump administration
no money.
New roadblocks.
I'll take your wheels.
Illegal pathways. Meanwhile, the number of people leaving the country,
yeah, time to
deportation, is expected to increase.
Make even more.
With a drop in new arrivals and the jump in exits, the U.S. could see a net outflow of 500,000 people this year, with an even larger exodus in 2026. That means fewer people working and spending money. Forecasters project the economic fallout.
Oh, you mad, police?
Loosening of immigration policy by 2027. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
A federal judge has rejected President Trump's effort to cut off certain protections against deportation for some Haitians. About 500,000 Haitians in the U.S. were
deportations for some Haitians.
Yes. This is
that rhymes.
The Trump administration is going to pause the delivery of some weapons to Ukraine. Officials are pointing to advice from the Pentagon. The Defense Department says there's concern the United States won't have enough weapons for itself or its stockpile. It's not clear how many U.S. weapons might be delayed or not delivered to Ukraine. The spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, has announced plans for his succession after he dies. This ends speculation that the centuries-old institution will end with him. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports from Tokyo. The renowned spiritual leader will turn 90 this Sunday.
After meeting with other high-ranking monks in Dharamsala, India, where he settled after fleeing Tibet in 1959, the Dalai Lama said he will reincarnate because that's what Tibetan people want. A foundation under his office will handle the succession, he added, and nobody else is allowed to interfere. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said that reincarnations of high-ranking monks, including the Dalai Lama, must be approved by China's government. Process, she added,
big money.
Religious rituals and historical customs and be handled in accordance with national laws and regulations. The concern is that Tibet may end up with rival Dalai Lamas, one recognized by the Chinese government and another by Tibetan exiles. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Tokyo.
In the U.S., temperatures have cooled off in much of the West, but not in Montana. The National Weather Service says parts of eastern Montana could reach triple digits today. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include AG1, introducing AG1 Next Gen, a daily drink with vitamins, minerals, and probiotics to support overall health. Learn more at drinkag1.com/science.
Itchy,
Good morning from
itchy,
Maine Public Radio
ga.
806
All right.
on this Wednesday morning. Governor Mills told
Almost.
Morning Edition
All the
the
police
budget
are gone. Good.
reconciliation bill passed by the Senate will shift tens of millions of dollars in costs to the state and leave Mainers worse off.
People describe this bill as beautiful. I don't see anything beautiful about it. There's nothing pretty about cutting food to hungry children. Nothing pretty about preventing people from getting to their doctor when they have a health care problem, or preventing the doctor from being paid. Nothing pretty about threatening rural hospitals, or driving up the cost of energy, especially in a state that relies on oil for heat now and depends too much on the fluctuating prices of petroleum products.
The bill is now before the House. Both of Maine's representatives oppose it. The chief executive of
I
Maine
saved,
Family
right?
Planning, George Hill, is warning
I'm going to
the
save again just in
spending bill
case.
will result in a delay
I
or
didn't.
loss of services
Even though I know I
for
did.
patients. Hill says those patients will be forced to pay out of pocket for contraception and reproductive care. Hill calls the bill an insidious approach to ban abortion in states like Maine that recognize abortion as essential, comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care.
Basically, it's an anti-abortion measure that's dressed up as a budget. It's not fooling anybody.
Hill says if the budget bill passes the House, patient health will be compromised. Maine Family Planning provides services to about 40,000 Maine residents. I'm Erwin Gratz, Maine Public Radio News.
This is Morning Edition from
Bet again and again. Oh, come on.
Jeremy Martinez in Culver City, California. President Trump's massive tax and spending bill has passed a major hurdle. Vice President Vance broke a tie in the Senate, and the legislation now goes back to the House for final approval. Now, despite policy concerns, Republicans largely rallied behind the bill and the president to seemingly give him the win.
It's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
NPR senior national political correspondent Mara Liasson joins us now to discuss the politics around this. So, Mara, just to be clear, nothing official about President Trump's 4th of July deadline for this, right? So even though the bill hasn't gotten past the finish line,
Kill 'em all.
would you consider this a win for the president so far?
Yes, I do.
And
This
go
was a win for
bet.
the president, especially because he had such a narrow margin in the Senate. He could only afford to lose 3 votes. He lost 3 votes, and J.D. Vance had to break the tie. The bill still has to pass the House, and there are a lot of hurdles there to
12 to
overcome.
1.
But the president has a very firm grip on his party, and this bill includes almost his entire legislative agenda packed into one vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. So a win, but still disagreement within the party. Though, where has been the
That's the
tension
most
with
second bet. No,
Yes, that's right. There are a lot
hitting
of
the wrong
in
buttons.
the House, conservative Republicans, fiscal
$3
planners who don't like
again.
the fact that the Senate bill adds trillions
Place bet.
more dollars to the deficit than their original.
Oh, not this time.
Moderate
He's
Republicans from
practically off screen.
states who don't like the way the Senate bill treats the deduction
Oh,
for state
purple's got it this
There are
time.
lots of hurdles in the House, but the president has made this personal. He said that a
He's
vote
trying,
against this
though.
bill
Look
would
at
be
that.
considered a betrayal. And in the Trump era, if you are a Republican and you vote
Oh,
against the
so
president,
close. Oh,
what
no,
you
yellow. Oh, yellow coming up.
he'll go after anyone who doesn't vote with him. He'll
So assuming it does pass both chambers and President Trump signs this into law, is this something that's going to be popular with Americans?
Well, that is the big political question. We know so far.
Almost 2 hours. Well, almost an hour and 45 minutes
millionaires and paying for them
of
by
this
taking people off of
809.
Every independent analysis has said that this bill would add trillions to the deficit, and it's skewed to the wealthy, and it could push nearly 12 million people off of Medicaid. We know there are a lot of Trump voters, blue-collar voters on Medicaid. One of the reasons is that Obamacare was a giant Medicaid expansion
Crappy
bill. That's
vehicle.
why people like Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina decided to end his career, not run.
Yeah, I'll
Instead
take
of
all
running
that
Trump,
cash.
he has said that
I'll even
Republicans are
save it
making a
again
dangerous political decision
after I kill a bunch of people.
because Democrats are going to run against this
Oh, and a
bill,
motorcycle. I'll
saying
take
encourage
that.
working families in order to help billionaires.
So what will the Republican counterpart?
Republicans are going to say, we made sure you didn't get a tax hike. That's because this bill extends the tax cut.
$2,000. I'll save that.
He passed a similar tax cut bill, and that might be a
Even
hard
if I have a 473.
in their tax bills. But in the
Okay.
first term, Trump's tax bill was very unpopular. It's one of the reasons that Trump lost the House in the first term, and it is bound to become a frontline issue in the upcoming midterm elections.
So one more thing, because President Trump apparently has a meeting with Elon Musk. He's on and off, and now it's on again, I think. So
Yes.
tell us about what's happening there.
And the police go away when you do that. Huh.
Musk has been very critical.
I wanted him to keep fighting me on the way to the
GOP, the
place.
Big Party. He said that it cuts investments in green energy. Of course, that would include the EV subsidies that help people buy Teslas. Musk's company. Trump says Musk is just looking out for his own business interests. He says that he might have to take a look at all of the money that Musk gets from the government. He said he would even, quote, take a look at deporting Elon Musk.
Oh my God.
So we don't know what Musk will do with his
So
money
much
in
for
the
that.
2026 election. Almost $300 million to help Trump get elected.
Well, whatever they had going on.
Thank you.
Where am I?
Passage of the budget in the House hinge on getting the most fiscally conservative wing of the Republican Party fully on board, the Freedom Caucus. That was co-founded by Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, and he joins us now. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Where's
I
everyone
start
else?
with what we just heard there. Is
What?
this bill a political risk for the Republicans? Are you on board? Now, do you plan to vote for it?
I do plan to vote for it. I think it is
Anyone else?
legislation.
I want this place to myself.
Because the left hates it. The left hates it because it actually empowers people.
12 to 1.
Doesn't
The
empower
beef
government.
bandito.
And Mara Lyson was talking about how, she thought it hurt working families. I think it helps working families because it lets them
Wow.
their
Why
money.
can't you bet $1 grand?
It says that we're also going to build
100
a
grand rather.
choice component, which is total parent empowerment, helping them decide where they can send their kid to get the best education. And then
Or 500 for that matter.
It says we're going to have a work requirement. If you're an
Or $1.
and you're getting help from the taxpayers in one of our social welfare programs, then you're going
Bottom guy.
And that is
He's always the least
fair to taxpayers. That's
in odds.
economy, most importantly. I think
You might get it. I don't know. Nah.
the right path where they're doing work and going to be moving.
I just want to jump in.
Listen to the failure music. Oh, I might win. Nah, I think purple's got it. Pretty close. Oh. Well, I'll turn it up louder next time.
According to the Congressional Budget Office. I mean, do you want to see it reworked to address this? Because I know you are specifically very concerned
Try
about
again.
The country's growing debt.
Yeah. Well, I wish we were cutting more and saving more, but you have to look at the lay of the land. We got a 3-seat majority in the Senate. We got a small majority in the House. In order to get the votes together to pass something, you gotta give, and this is, I think, the best possible position we could get, as evidenced by the fact that you only got, it was a 50-50 tie, and of course the vice president had the big tie in the Senate, and 2 of the 3 who voted against it were voting against it from not because it didn't cut enough and save enough and help with the deficit, and against it for people we call moderate or more liberal reasons. In
Overcuts to Medicaid because there are it will cut to about 12 million people are expected to lose insurance over the onerous paperwork under this bill. That was the concern.
Wow, having a hard time here.
From your colleague Congressman Andy Harris of Maryland on Fox News recently, he just
what's my skill on this?
We support the president's agenda.
Is it Hitman?
Not to raise the deficit
Should I be using
$1 trillion over the next 10 years? The bottom line is now the House is going to have its say. Not going to sail through the House. We're going to have to negotiate with the Senate one more time.
So I should let this weapon build up. I want to get all the weapons to be powered up, even if it's one I don't use.
Or will the House be able to
it looks cool though. You get to dual wield those.
I have had conversations with Tim Harris and other members of the Freedom Caucus and just members of our entire conference, the Republican conference. But I think this bill is, and I look sometimes at just who voted for it. I mean, Senator Johnson, Senator Lee, Senator Lummis, Senator Scott, Senator Cruz, all kinds of conservative senators voted for this package. It's pretty darn good. It cuts taxes for families. It has a work requirement for able-bodied adults in our welfare system. It says that we're going to make sure there are resources to keep our borders secure. And it also builds into school choice component in our tax code. Those are fundamental Republican positions. Any one of those positions in and of themselves, by themselves, we would vote for that legislation. But somehow when it's put together in a big package, you have people who don't want to vote for it because it doesn't cut enough spending. As I said before, I wish we were reducing spending more. But overall, this is a good piece of legislation.
Oh, what's your problem?
We told the voters we were going to
Thanks for the cover.
for the job last November.
They shredded my armor, did they?
July 4th deadline, do you think?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's a lot going to depend on what happens on this first vote, whenever that takes place today on the rule.
The
for
uphill
bringing up the
gardener.
legislation on the floor. So that's going to happen sometime later this morning, maybe this afternoon. I think it depends on that. But
It's a lot of button pressing.
For July 4th.
And really quickly, what are you saying to people like Congressman Harris right now? How are the negotiations going?
Now I have $2.
The same thing I said there. And I think sometimes too, you got to look at momentum is important in politics, just like in sports. And right now, the momentum is on our side. We have the border that's now secure. We have a successful Iran operation.
Load her up.
And he gets emotional when the network that carries his show calls him on his teeny tiny cell phone. Bloody at me. When he hangs up, he sits on his tiny bed and cries.
That did something to me. It's like deep.
Miss Taz was one of thousands of fans who took to social media using the hashtag #SaveTinyChef.
Now, how does that not pull at your heartstrings? Nickelodeon.
Fan Jonathan Branson started a petition on change.org that has more than 10,000 signatures.
You made me smile on days, that I didn't feel like smiling. So just really, they canceled the show.
Nickelodeon has not responded to NPR's request for comment. Fans have protested show cancellations before. They were outraged when Fox canceled the sitcom Brooklyn Nine-Nine. NBC quickly picked it up. In TV lore, fans were responsible. Turned out the NBC deal was in the works before the fan campaign. And then there's Family Guy.
Everybody, I got bad news. We've been canceled.
But then its fan base grew.
Ooh, he's got money.
Reruns
No, he
on
doesn't.
Cartoon Network and DVD sales.
Anyone else
so
in here?
Fox brought Family Guy back.
Your money's on the wall.
This is NPR News.
And this is Morning Edition on Maine Public Radio. Good morning to you at 19 minutes now after 8 o'clock.
You make Morning Edition
8:19.
with help from Woodhall, an architecture, construction, and millwork firm committed to delivering enduring residential and commercial buildings. Woodhall.com and Colby College.
$0 all.
Free and open to all. Museum.colby.edu.
Off to too good of a start. I don't know. Maybe this is it.
And the people who really know how to push our buttons. Coming up on the World Stories of Family Life, from efforts to boost birth rates to finding love in a war zone. We all have what's called our life. We want
second win.
That's next time on The World.
Come on.
And you can join
Nope,
us for the
not
world this
happening.
afternoon at 3 right here on Maine Public Radio.
So
20
close.
after 8, now,
Second.
time for check of the weather.
I won 0.
Good morning, Owen. Good morning, everybody. We've got some slow clearing for today. High temperatures up into the 80s. A little humid, but there is more help on the way in that department. Overnight lows tonight will drop down to 50.
I swear I'll win again.
Statewide, it's still kind of muggy. A little patchy fog in spots too. Now tomorrow, that
Yes.
next cold front comes by with some scattered showers and thunder showers, and that will finally clear us out. It may take a good portion of the day on Friday to do it, particularly in the mountains. But we will see clearing for the weekend. That's the way it looks
Clearing?
here.
Checking conditions
Clearing
around the
what?
region this morning. We're seeing cloudy skies in Auburn with a temperature reading of 70 degrees. Augusta's mostly cloudy, 72. Bangalore still in the fog this morning, 71. Caribou's got sunshine though, 67 in the north there.
Try again on a motorcycle. I'm having that bike. Yeah, it's my bike.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their clients' best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. From Procter & Gamble, maker of Z-Quil, with a range of products designed to relieve occasional sleeplessness to help people fall asleep. Learn at ZQuil.com. From Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options. At Progressive.com.
$35.
Progressive. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And from the Lemelson Foundation, working to harness the power of invention and innovation to accelerate climate action and improve lives around the world. Learn more at lemelson.org.
Shouldn't be wasting time when I'm doing such nonsense, right?
Good morning. President Trump says Florida can be a model for other states that want to help the federal government deport immigrants without legal status. Trump joined Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and other officials yesterday to tour a new detention center that's being called Alligator Alcatraz. NPR's Greg Allen reports.
Alligator-traz.
Alcatraz. Training airport near Everglades National Park. He clearly likes the location in the heart of an unforgiving freshwater marsh.
Handy.
Pythons and mosquitoes.
And a lot of bodyguards and a lot of cops that are in the form of alligators do not depend so much. But I wouldn't want to live in the Everglades for long.
The state and federal government moved quickly, building the 3,000-bed facility in just over a week.
Traditional $3 left over.
Immigrant advocates, environmental groups, and indigenous people who live in the Everglades. Some of them filed a federal lawsuit last week, asking a judge to block the site from being used as a detention center. Paul Schwepp, an attorney representing the environmental groups, says the Trump administration and the state of Florida are seeking to ignore federal law.
Unless I get some kind of craziness here.
Project's impact.
They rush this through, and all we hear is the governor
lose for the win.
Saying,
Who's going to win?
Why? Because they say there will be no environmental impact.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said the first migrants were set to be moved to the site almost immediately following President Trump's visit. DeSantis says he wants the federal government to deputize National Guard and other individuals at the detention center so they can act as immigration judges and expedite deportations.
I'll have a National Guard judge advocate here. Someone has a notice to appear. Biden would tell them to come back in 3 years and appear. Now you'll be able to appear in like a day or two, so they're not going to be detained, hopefully, for all that long.
It's something for which there is no legal precedent, but Trump says he's on board with the plan. Part of the point of yesterday's tour of a facility in the middle of a daunting environment with dangerous wildlife was to send a message to people who are in the U.S. without legal status. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says hundreds of immigrants without legal status have already left the country on their own. And as deportations increase, she expects that number to grow. Greg Allen, NPR News, Miami.
To talk more about the message the new Florida detention site is meant to send, we're joined by Republican political strategist and communication consultant Alex Conant. He's offered advice on messaging to both politicians and campaigns, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio's presidential campaign in 2016. So Alex, heard President Trump joke that migrants would have to learn how to run from alligators. So let's start with the voters. What kind of message is he sending to voters?
Well, it's something that he wants to continue to be tough on immigration, however he can be. And remember, this is core to Trump's brand. Since he came down the escalator 10 years ago, he's been tough on immigration.
Focus on this nonsense.
It's a big part of his appeal to MAGA voters, to Republican voters. It's why he won the Republican presidential primary, I believe, in 2016. And it's one that he does well against the Democrats with independents. And so he's going to continue to talk about immigration. It's also becoming a policy victory.
Ginger Witch, that sounds promising, right?
Now, compared to when Joe Biden was president, clearly this is a win for Trump. And
magic. She'll use her magic.
Migrants out there might be thinking, well, I don't want to go down there, so I'll just head back to where I came from.
I mean, I think that's a feature of what's happening in Trump's eyes.
Wait, do you think that Trump thinks that will happen, or that migrants are actually thinking that?
Oh, I don't know.
Look, I think Trump thinks that the tougher he is on immigration,
it's anyone's race at the moment.
to come into
So
this country.
blue's looking pretty good. Purple.
Status. Unrestricted to stay in this country. The fewer people are going to come, and ultimately his goal and his team's goal is to reduce the number of undocumented people in America. And so far, I think he's having some success with that.
Now, some of the people
Not quite.
detention centers may not have been charged.
Second place doesn't get you anything in this race.
Prison environment.
I mean, I think that's obvious, isn't it? Yes. You know, he's doing these tours of this facility. His team is rolling around with ICE agents who look, you know, very intimidating. You know, their masks on and whatnot.
This could take a while, maybe.
Clearly, they're trying to intimidate. They're trying to scare undocumented immigrants here, and I think anecdotally, at least, they're having the intended effect. And it's not without purpose.
Get a lot of money. I don't even need to be doing it right now, but I am.
Doing what they said, that they're being tough.
I want $1 million or more.
At the same time,
Who knows? 10 million.
People in other countries who are thinking about coming here illegally, don't do it because you're not going to be able to stay.
Is there a
Taking
risk,
your
though,
car.
when it comes to voters who are maybe more moderate?
Oh, I'll take that.
Something tougher done on immigration, but not this.
Oh, you're gonna
or is maybe just the base energy
get
more
tough with me? That's what I thought.
Well, I think the base energy is
Walk off.
to Trump. I mean,
Oh,
he's
you.
guided by what his base wants. But I think more than that,
No money.
there is a backlash.
Oh, I guess you did have money.
Some people are uncomfortable. And let's face it, Trump has shown some flexibility. You know, he backed off enforcement in agriculture as we heard from farmers and the agricultural industry that this was potentially damaging for the local economies. He's backed off on enforcement in hospitality and certain restaurants. So I think he has shown more flexibility than he likes to acknowledge on immigration. You know, at the same time, his team is very much looking at the southern border and seeing a huge drop in the number of people coming across the border there, and they're gonna do everything they can to tout that win.
And Alex, Department of Homeland Security said that did not happen, what you mentioned. But really quick, we got about 30 seconds here. Any of this, could this be a way to maybe bait Democrats? Considering everything that's happening this week with the bill, I mean, is this a way to just kind of get Democrats all riled up?
I mean, I think this is the issue that he feels most comfortable about, and absolutely he would love to have a debate with a national Democrat about immigration.
Ring of fire.
It's an issue that Democrats have really struggled with in recent years, given Biden's failures at the southern border, given how it divides their own party. You look at how a lot of national unions feel about immigration vis-a-vis some of their liberal voters. I think it's a tough issue for Democrats.
$9.3. $4.
Thank you.
Ring of Fire. Now that's a good name. Come on. Not this time. Purple for the win. Good, I can do it now. That'll speed the process up slightly. In meaningless ways, probably.
Sometimes moving abroad can give you a clearer insight.
Abroad, moving abroad.
Culture and identity. That's the case for a growing number of Americans who have left the U.S. to roam the world as digital workers.
Moving or where?
Have definitely
Right.
pointed out that apparently.
Oh, why do I find that so funny?
Seeing American culture.
So horrible.
Things considered from NPR News.
Well, the judge for all things considered this afternoon is 4 right here on Main Public Radio.
Morning edition is made
4 seconds. That's a nice one.
From Livingston News Surveyors, privileged to serve Maine for more than 3 decades,
Ooh.
and a proud supporter of public broadcasting. LivingstonNews.com and IAE.
Thank you.
With David Sedaris, the 1932 Criterion Theater on July 12th. Tickets at davidsedarisontour.com.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. House Speaker Mike Johnson is pledging Congress
Shoot 'em all.
to work on the Republican
They'll-
tax and spending cut bill by the end of the week. It cleared the Senate.
They're trying to
yesterday
throw
after
my
Vice President
race
Pence
so I don't win. I'm gonna kill everyone.
GOP senators voted against the bill.
It's their
House will now
fault.
consider changes made by senators.
He
The
fell off
Wisconsin
it.
Supreme Court is expected to rule today on a state law that bans abortion.
Oh no, what are you gonna do about this? Where are you?
Attorney General sued after the
U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus
Oh,
Wade. Maya
nastiness.
Silver with member station WUWN reports.
After the U.S. Supreme Court's
Lots of
2022
explosions.
decision, clinics halted abortions in Wisconsin. That's because of an 1849 law that conservatives say criminalizes abortion in all cases except to save the mother's life.
Wasting ammo.
The Democratic Attorney General Josh Hall sued. And in late 2023,
Let's go do
the trial
that.
court ruled that
It's
the
all
law
a waste of
doesn't
time.
enforce
I'm probably gonna
Instead,
lose anyway.
criminalizes the killing of a woman's child without her consent. So, abortions resumed in the state. The Wisconsin Supreme Court will have the last word on that legal reasoning and on whether the 1849 law was repealed by more recent laws. Liberals on the court now hold a 4-3 majority. For NPR News, I'm Ayan Silver in Milwaukee.
This is NPR News.
And this is Maine Public Radio News. Good morning. I'm Erwin Gratz at 8:31. The big budget bill passed by the Senate
$4. I
yesterday
like
will
that
eliminate
amount.
incentives for wind and
Wasps, all right.
Advocates say the bill will also hurt homeowners looking to improve energy efficiency.
The bill rolls back tax credits for renewable power construction.
La 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 la. I shouldn't even look right.
Weatherize homes, install heat pumps, or switch to high efficiency appliances.
Oh, bad.
Fetcher is with the Natural Resources Council of Maine.
Not gonna happen.
Help lower and middle income
Yellow this time.
afford energy and efficiency upgrades to their homes and businesses.
Under the bill, the credit would expire at the end of
One more try. Maybe more. I'm lying. I could be lying. Find out.
Of industrial solar and wind projects in the
Keep
US
watching and find out.
Maine Senators Republican Susan Collins and Independent Angus King voted against the measure. It will now be considered by the U.S. House. For Maine Public Radio News, I'm Peter McGuire.
Yeah, I don't want to use. Maybe after I beat the game, I'll use cheats and have some goofiness go happen.
Maddie Smith explains.
The almost $3 billion settlement was formally approved in early June and will allow schools to pay athletes directly,
Oh,
ending 3 federal antitrust lawsuits.
project.
aimed at the NCAA
I'm sorry I missed your
limiting the
messages
power
by
of
so much
In a statement this
time.
week, the UMaine Athletic Department said after reviewing the
I
final
just totally
settlement
wasn't
and
paying
clarifying items
attention.
regarding roster limits,
But what's that? Some kind of hack of the game? A mod?
roster limits have increased across Division I
Project
sports with the
Kaizu,
settlement,
was it?
and every athlete can be offered a scholarship up to $20 million. For Maine Public Radio News, I'm Maddie Smith.
The
Oh,
Lincoln County Courthouse will close for at least 2 weeks to deal with possible mold. Court officials saying the hearing is scheduled in that time with the courthouse in Philadelphia.
oh,
In sports, Red Sox.
what am I doing?
Fenway was suspended after 3 innings with Boston up 2-1. Game will resume.
Speed run. I wish I could get good enough to speed run this stuff, this game or the others.
For another hot and humid day today, highs most places back into the 80s.
Whoops, going the wrong way already.
60s tomorrow, another round of showers and thunderstorms marking.
No, I'm kind of lost. Where am I? Right here.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Workday. Workday is an HR and finance platform for forward thinkers, dedicated to propelling organizations, workforces,
Oh, I
and
should have
industries
killed
into
him.
the future. Workday, moving business forever forward. From the Cy Sims Foundation, since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Layla Faldick.
Enemy Martinez. It's one of the most famous lines in movie history. Hasta la vista.
Baby.
That is, of course, the unmistakable voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
$2.
The actor recently told the Associated Press that his accent has benefited him in the melting pot that is America. Everywhere you turn, there's an accent. A South African accent, Australian accent, a British accent, whatever. I mean, it's like it's an accent. So it has always worked to my advantage. It got us wondering about So we called up Carrie Lim. She's a speech language pathologist who works with people on their accents. And I asked her if Schwarzenegger's experience is typical of her clients.
It really varies. You know, an accent really is part of a personal identity and even part of a culture.
So why do people come in for accent modification typically?
Sometimes they may feel external reasons. They may feel that they have to repeat themselves, or they may have difficulty communicating thoughts and ideas in social or professional settings.
There's a great scene in the sitcom Modern Family where Sofia Vergara's character gets very, very upset because she thinks that because she has a thick Colombian accent that people don't think she's as
I don't know
smart
why
as
the
she really
computer,
is.
that crap does that.
I know what I meant to mean.
Is there another book
How
here?
smart I am in Spanish?
Do you think that sometimes people believe that because they have an accent that maybe others don't think that they are as smart as they can be?
Yeah, unfortunately, there are
Let's
biases
see if
that
that
go along
helps.
with some accents, and sometimes stereotypes as well. Like I'm from the deep South. I'm from Alabama, and unfortunately, the Southern dialect can sometimes have that negative stereotype.
Take the VHS out of the
It
equation.
just refers to the way that a group of people
It's
pronounce
still the
words
same
when speaking the same
weird.
language. So the
All right,
notion
let's
of kind of
try
neutral accent really is a
again.
myth. And what people are saying when someone has a neutral accent is that there's just not a lot of distinctive characteristics in their speech to be able to tell where they're from.
So, Pierre, can you think of any famous examples
Whoops.
of people
Oh, I made
changing
it.
their
Or the
accents,
bike did.
actually changing to the point where it's almost like
Yay.
completely unrecognizable to what their natural accent would be?
Yeah, the first two that come to mind would be Nicole Kidman. She's Australian, and if you hear her in interviews, she breaks back into that Australian accent.
I sat there with my daughters, my sister, all of her children. She has 6 children.
But she does a lot of shows and movies based in the US, and you wouldn't really know that she has an Australian accent by listening to her characters.
After 5 years, I started my own company. I wanted to automate repetitive tasks and give people their time back.
And then another one would be Hugh Laurie.
One more, maybe.
You hear him, he has a complete American accent.
$50. Dwayne Pickens was willing to leave here right now.
But when you hear him back in interviews, he reverts back to, his native accent.
If you mess something up and it doesn't sound right, you've always got the excuse of saying, well, I'm not really, that's the whole point. I'm not really an American. That was
But, you also have to keep in mind these are actors and actresses who have a communication coach or an accent or dialect coach, and they're doing a lot of repetition. They're memorizing a script, and they have somebody who can really do a deep dive, into even the vowels that.
Come on, I have colors. Give it to me. Give me that win.
If they weren't addressed in the script.
So is it possible to then truly ever completely get rid of an accent? Just take it to where it's something that no one would ever guess that you're from a particular region or place?
That is a great question, and the most common one I get. You're not really losing an accent.
So close.
Like some people will say
Maybe.
you're actually learning another one.
Nope, purple.
There is research that tells us if you learn a language after a certain age, the magic number kind of being 12, but in general, late childhood or early adolescence, your first language or your dominant language is going to impact how you produce and pronounce that second language. Can you really lose an accent or learn another
40
one?
what?
It's
6%.
really hard after a set age. It takes a lot of time to change that habit in what we call spontaneous speech or conversation, when you may not even know what you're about to say till you say it, is very challenging.
Carrie Lim is a speech language pathologist. Carrie, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Fans of Tiny Chef are rising up to protest Nickelodeon's decision to cancel the 7-inch Stars show. If you have no idea what that means, NPR's Elizabeth
Why
Blair.
are they talking about this?
Tiny Chef is like
Who
a cross between
cares?
Pillsbury Doughboy and a Despicable Me minion.
Sounds stupid.
The stop-motion animation figure
Oh,
slices,
stop
dices,
motion.
and bakes with glee with his tiny tools in his tiny kitchen. He loves to sing and dance. And he gets emotional when
creepy.
the network that carries his show calls him on his teeny tiny cell phone.
Yeah, wow, I'm a ninja. What are you gonna
When
do?
he hangs up, he sits on his tiny bed and
That's hacking at someone with it.
Taz was one of thousands of fans who took to social media using the hashtag #SaveTinyChef.
Now, how does that not
How do you decapitate?
Nickelodeon.
Fan Jonathan Branson started a petition on change.org
Lots of
that has
cash.
more than
No, that's
10,000
trash. Never
signatures.
mind.
It made me smile on days, that I didn't feel like smiling. So
Oh
it
my
just
God.
really disheartened me when I seen
Find
that,
something else to
they
smile
canceled
at.
the show.
Jeez.
Nickelodeon has
Get
not
over it.
responded to NPR's request
Like
for
my
comment.
videos, they're
Fans have protested show
so
cancellations
happy and
before. They
full
were
of, they fill you
outraged
full
when
of
Fox
joy,
canceled
right?
the sitcom Brooklyn Nine-Nine. NBC quickly picked it up. In TV
$18.
lore, fans were responsible. Turned out the
Place
NBC
bet.
deal was in the works before the fan campaign. And then there's Family Guy.
Everybody, I got bad news. We've been canceled.
But then its fan base grew
Wow,
through reruns
maybe.
on Cartoon Network and
I
DVD
think
sales,
Red's got
so
it.
Fox brought Family Guy back.
No,
The
purple.
producers of the Tiny Chef show
Not
say
green.
they've heard rumblings
Oh,
of interest from other
orange
networks.
coming up
Keep
there.
making videos for social media
Or red, whatever that
crowdfunding
is.
through a Tiny Chef membership club. Director and co-creator Rachel Larson
Purple.
says they've raised more than $100,000. She says the outpouring from fans has been overwhelming.
We are very happy, and it just felt like Chef was getting the attention we really feel like he deserved.
Can I decapitate people? Alright, I'll try it maybe so till I win again, should I?
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Layla Falded.
And I'm Martinez.
I got lucky that first time. Now it's being
You're
troublesome.
listening to Morning Edition on Maine Public Radio. Good morning. It's Wednesday, 18 minutes now before 9 o'clock.
Oh,
Support
come
for NPR
on.
comes from the station and from the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation, collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. From Jarl and Pamela Moan, focusing on civil
They
liberties,
don't care.
health, youth, public radio, and the arts. And from the William T. Grant Foundation, supporting research to improve the lives of young people at WTGrant.
Oh yeah, bad wheel. The bad wheel will give me luck.
Ukraine says it's concerned by Washington's decision to halt some U.S. weapons deliveries. The BBC's Paul Adams in Ukraine says recent events in the Middle East have added to the pressure on the Pentagon's stockpiles of weaponry. But he says Ukraine is worried that any pause in U.S. support will embolden Russia.
Patriot air batteries and the missiles carried by Western-supplied F-16 jets are vital to protect Ukraine. After Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky met at last week's NATO summit, Mr. Trump said he was looking to see whether more Patriot missiles might be available. If supplies now start to dry up, that will leave Ukraine increasingly vulnerable.
Elsewhere, Iran has enacted a law suspending its cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA. Iran says the law will remain in force until conditions are met, including the protection of its nuclear facilities and scientists. And in Zimbabwe, a prominent newspaper editor is in court, accused of undermining the authority of the country's president. In a satirical article published last week, says Shingai Naoka, the editor describes Zimbabwe as a mafia state.
The prosecution say the satirical weekly column undermined the president, Emerson Mnangagwa. Over the years, dozens of Zimbabweans have been arrested under the expressing negative opinions about the president.
And I'm Rob Hugh Jones at the BBC in London.
And I'm Erwin Gratz, Maine Public Radio News. Good morning. Nurses rallied in
Anybody's race at this
against
point.
the proposed Medicaid cuts in the budget bill. They say
That purple's usually pretty happening.
Jody Friedman, a nurse at Maine Medical Center, says the cuts are devastating, not just for patients, but for nurses who want to help them.
Nurses care for patients every day. That's the heart of nursing, and it doesn't matter to us what insurance you have or what your status is. We just want to take care of you.
I'm losing all hope.
Collins Portland office after the rally to thank her for voting no on the bill.
Maybe I should do some unique jumps or those thief missions.
Aid from schools around the country, including Maine's. The Federal Education Department said it is reviewing some $6 billion in aid to public schools to ensure, quote, taxpayer resources are spent in accordance with the president's priorities and the Defense Department's statutory responsibilities. Maine's Education Department has told school districts they may not see any of the frozen federal grant money
One more
until
time.
September. We'll check out the weather forecast coming up in about 5 minutes. Morning edition.
7 more times.
Quarter to 8. Check that, quarter to 9. School closures across the state are up this year, according to new data from the Maine Department of Education. District leaders say declining enrollment, the difficulty of maintaining school infrastructure, and the increasing local cost of education are all contributing factors. There are worries closing a school can mean a loss in town identity. Maddie Smith takes us to Savannah's primary school during its final days.
Walking into Sabatis Primary School in early June, the traditional sights
Dude, I need to have a lot of police after me to win.
Children's voices fill the playground, classrooms, and parks.
Wrong gun.
Moving boxes lining the corridor are a reminder that an accumulation of building problems is prompting a change.
Bathrooms are over. We have plumbing issues.
Wow. Oh, when he got up and died, yeah.
Katie Grondin, superintendent of RSU4, says the school is closing because the building is simply run down.
We looked in the classroom. They're nice.
Ah, you like that?
Stuff. You know, everything's older.
Sabatis Primary School.
Oh, those stupid flowers. I have too many things to cycle through to get to my grenades.
Estimates the total cost to repair the school after all those years is around $5 million. She says the closure will save the district roughly $300,000 in staffing and operational costs and will simplify complicated bus routes.
Wow, let's get out of here.
Russell, RSU4 parent and school board chair, says
Is that a shotgun blast?
And thinks parental pickup will be easier, which isn't usually the case when schools are closed.
It really is a parent. I really like have a preference on which building that's
Oh, if I win, I'm in trouble, though. I'll have to be very careful. I'm probably not going to win anyway.
Close after Governor John Baldacci's 2007 consolidation transformed Maine's rural school systems into larger districts. And many communities
Crack Horse, that's a good name.
Have lost their local schools.
Crack Horse.
Matthew Sears,
Crack Horse.
Of RSU 34,
Crack Horse.
This is the cost of the regional school
real.
System. That's kind of the difference when you form an RSU. You're truly thinking of all communities as one, and you're not trying to operate separate communities.
Sears says his district is
watch me win and get killed,
Bradley, because enrollment
which will be fine, I guess. I'll accept it.
Between our two small
oh yeah, they're gonna do this. It means I'm gonna die, right?
And you know, those
maybe not.
Things still require the same level of heat.
Oh, and here comes purple. Oh no, yellow. Yeah, look at him go with a speed burst like that. He's winning. Oh, I guess not.
Either raise taxes or close schools.
Third.
The decision to close is even more difficult.
All right, let's
where the school is a primary civic space.
Say screw it and do some
especially for
I'll go buy some property
that no longer have children in the
and do some
all they have is these great
unique jumps. I got the map pulled up and everything.
That's a hard thing to understand.
Gonna replace this with a lesser weapon.
As their first and second grade students fill vacant classrooms in Litchfield. Grondin says the transition is difficult for those personally attached to the school.
I would say everybody understands. You know, obviously, people who have taught here their whole career, or they went to school here, and it's daunting, but I think everybody knew at some point it was going to happen.
After staff cleared the school in June, RSU4 returned the building back to the town.
You got away fast.
Meeting in May to brainstorm ideas on what to use the space for. Resident Alex Van Sant says he wants it to remain community oriented.
All right, time to upgrade this weapon.
Sear and Bradley and Grondin and Sabatis expect if funding doesn't become available for school repair and enrollment continues to decline, more schools will close.
He shoots it up in the air too much.
He could announce closures before the end of the year. For Maine Public Radio News, I'm Maddie Smith.
This morning edition on Maine Public Radio.
Oh, I better stop screwing around.
Wednesday address on the second day of July. I'm Rowan Drex.
Any stars nearby or something?
Wind forecast partly to mostly sunny. Still pretty hot today. A lot of places be in the 80s, and the humidity drops.
Oh, let's load the game, I think, right?
For tonight,
Yeah, I'm dead.
clear, overnight lows, upper 50s to mid 60s. Tomorrow, partly sunny. We'll get back up into the 80s many places.
I don't know why I did that.
But we will see some shower and thunderstorm activity later in the day, and we're told this is a more potent cold front. Tomorrow night, as the
I need armor.
will drop into the 50s. Friday will be partly sunny and less humid.
Half of it, I need some more, right?
July generally in the 70s.
I'm James Fernandez, host of BBC NewsHour today.
Okay.
President Trump's big, beautiful bill of tax cuts and increased spending heads back to the House of Representatives today. But there's opposition from within his own party, especially over cuts to healthcare. Also, the politics over who will succeed the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan spiritual leader.
That's all ahead on
Two stars? Come on.
About 9 minutes at 9 o'clock here on Maine Public Radio.
I'm Robin Young. An online game helped well-known tiny college radio station WBOR Maine go viral last month.
We got an email saying that a few thousand people were tuned into the station. Numbers off the charts.
How the internet road trip is putting local radio back on the map. Next time, here now.
Bill Johnson for here and now.
Let's go to the whatever. Get rid of the police.
On the next Speaking in Maine, how U.S. foreign policy affects the rest of the Western Hemisphere.
Mark Carney has been
Nice shot.
that the old order
Lucky.
relying on the U.S. as a reliable economic and security partner is over.
Oops, let's really get a car here. And armor at some point.
Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock on Maine Public Radio.
Yeah, it's a cash.
Are you in the Millinocket region?
Oh, come on.
News and Brews trivia is happening tonight. Is happening in your neck of the woods. Join us at Ninth Edge Brew.
Come on.
That's a week from Thursday. To test
I don't like this gun.
Visit the community section of mainepublic.org for details of how to sign up your team. That's News and Brews trivia at Ninth Edge Brewing in Millinocket, July 10th at 5:30 p.m. And we look forward to seeing you there. Great American Recipe returns to
Oh, everyone's driving away.
with 8 new home cooks from across the U.S. ready to showcase their homegrown talent. Mixing camaraderie with competition, Great American Recipe is an uplifting.
Where's the pay-and spray? The nearest one's way over there. They're all
signature dishes and
south, basically.
That's the Great American Recipe. It's
Oh,
Maine Public Television and at Maine Public.
with this crappy tire.
Morning Edition is made possible by listeners like you and by Bowdoin College, where the Peary McMillan Arctic Museum presents printed textiles.
Ha, still killing him.
Bowdoin.edu/arts. And Androscoggin Bank, proud sponsor of Maine Public's Climate Desk for climate and environmental reporting.
Whoop, that's not south. Derp.
Paramount says it has agreed to pay $16 million to settle a lawsuit filed by President Trump over the editing of 60 Minutes interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm gonna die.
Parent company of CBS told
Just messing around now, I guess, huh?
the presidential library, not to the president himself. Said the settlement didn't involve an apology. Trump's lawyer said the president had suffered mental anguish due to the editing of the interview.
Mental anguish. Oh my god.
Yes, so Trump's contention, the interview was edited to enhance how Harris sounded. Because advocacy group is threatening to sue the settled the case. Wall Street futures are largely unchanged.
Another bunk tire. Oh, isn't there a star over here?
Markets quietly are awaiting U.S. employment data and student health.
On the other side, I'm gonna die and have to reload. No stars, I'm wrong. Oh, I'm gonna die.
For the first time, more Americans are getting news
Unless I make it to my save point.
versus television programs or websites.
Oh.
That's
according to a report from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism at the University of
Is that
Oxford.
mine?
The group has studied news consumption
Yeah, I'm alive. Ha 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 ha. Cheesy, but I lived.
in the US. Nick Newman is one of the co-authors.
You know, television's always been king, and every year we see the percentage of people who proportion who are consuming
All right,
TV falling.
let's get real here.
Certainly in the last
Get a
year,
motorcycle
increase in
and armor.
saying that they consume via some kind of social video network. So that's now over 50%, and much higher with younger demographics as well. So that feels like a watershed moment. And, you know, I think it's fueled by some of the other trends that we see in the US market. So the rise of the creator economy, individuals, personalities leaving traditional media organizations, setting up on their own because they think they can have more
Motorcycle, I think I know where it is.
reach audiences in new ways at a much cheaper cost.
And what do you think is the significance of this shift that we're seeing? Is this going to...
Unless I come along across one on the way there.
Or the news we do get? Or what is the result of this?
I think
Somewhere over here.
I mean, some people would argue that it's a good thing that the traditional media, you know, has a particular set of biases or agendas, and it's broadened the
Over
range of
there.
Other people would argue that a lot of the creators and influencers are telling stories in more compelling ways, and that the media needs to wake up to a lot of those things. But then others will say that a lot of these creators are basically just living off the back of news organizations who create the news, which is very expensive to gather.
Don't worry, I won't bother you anymore. Just get out of my way.
So,
Let's push you around a little. I can't remember where it is now.
Or conspiracy theories. Now,
Down and around. It's up here.
Creators here, some of them are doing great work, some are doing explanatory journalism, investigative journalism, so it's very hard to talk about, you know, one thing, because it's really this explosion of different types of journalism, creativity, opinion, and diversity.
And in the American market, you kind of looked at the influencers that are predominating, these creator influencers, and you found that there is partisan influencers on both sides, but one side dominates.
One side dominates. I don't think that's going to be.
All right, and the cops are gone.
But yeah, the top 5 influencers: Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. Of course, many of these essentially are journalists who used to work for traditional media and now think that they can have more control in this new environment. So it's not exactly sort of breaking new ground. It's very different from people on the left as well. So Brian Tyler Johnson and
What's that noise?
people like that. But they
Very plasticky.
And there's been a lot of discussion about why it is that the right is able to drive, you know, such huge audiences, such huge loyalty in the US. And I think much of it is to do with the sort of simplicity of those messages that really resonate with a lot of people who are disaffected in the US. And that is linked to the rise of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement in the US as well.
Pretty tall.
The Reuters Institute for the Study of
Is this
Journalism.
a thing I can attempt?
We'll link to his full report on our website, marketplacetech.org.
Not at the moment.
This episode, I'm Novasafo.
Any jumps? What's that?
This is APM.
More ammo for that.
Maine Public Radio. Good morning to you on this Wednesday morning. We invite you to start your weekend with stories that move beyond the headlines.
How can there not be a jump up here?
Is Maine Public's weekly newsletter with our picks of 10 stories.
That's annoying.
Arts and culture, politics.
Bam. Time for so. Where am I? In a tunnel.
And have the 10 delivered to your inbox every Friday morning.
Weird.
You're listening to Maine Public, and this is listener-supported Maine Public Radio, WPH Bangor 90.9, WPEO Bethel 91.9.
No, I'm probably going to get stuck in here.
Dallas 89.7, WMEP.
Unless there's a... There we go.
WMHD Greenville 89.7, WBSP Millinocket 90.1, WMEA Portland 90.1. WMEM Presque Isle 106.1, WMEW Waterville 91.3, and online too at mainpublic.org.
All right, time to do what? Get armor?
Nice Wednesday. ABC News is next. It's 9 o'clock.
Down over here.
Welcome to News Hour from the BBC World Service. Hello, I'm James Menendez. Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill heads to the House of Representatives for another vote. But poorer Americans are concerned what it might mean for their access to health care.
I would be without any kind of health care because I can't afford it. I'm not one of them billionaires.
Also today, the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, insists he will have a successor and that China won't have a role in approving whoever's chosen.
He's making it absolutely clear that the only person with authority in this matter is himself.
And we'll hear from the composer who's using moths to make music and to highlight their dramatic decline.
There were 80 different species of moth that appeared that evening, so there was a lot of sounds that I had to play with. If it wasn't for the moths, that piece would not happen.
All of that and more coming up after the news.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. Ukraine.
Oh, what am I doing now? Unique jumps. How unique are they?
Embolden Russia. The Foreign Ministry invited a US diplomat for talks. It thanked him for US support, but stressed that any delay or procrastination in aiding Ukraine's defense capabilities would only encourage
Some of the
rather than seek peace. Paul Adams is in Kiev.
somewhat.
We also don't know precisely
I'm
which
pretty far from any of
are
them.
going to be affected, although there's been a lot of
Go to number 20
and also on the missiles
on this map anyway, on my thingamabob, my computer.
ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. So there's certainly a great deal of anxiety, but everyone from the president on down is basically saying, let's find out what is really happening here.
The Israeli Foreign Minister says any opportunity to free the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza should not be missed. Gidon Saar's comments came after Donald Trump said Israel had agreed to finalize a deal on hostage releases and a 60-day ceasefire. From Jerusalem, here's Wira Davis.
The problem is we don't really know many details beyond that, and details here are really, really important. Of course, from an Israeli perspective, one thing that most Israelis would want is the release
3
of all the hostages being
seconds.
held in Gaza as part of any deal.
Alright, what's the jump here?
Wants guarantees about a long-term peace agreement, a formal end to the
That.
fighting, not just a 60-day ceasefire, because they're worried if they release the hostages, then Israel would start the war again at the end of the ceasefire. And also Hamas would want some sort of partial withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza.
Meanwhile, Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says at least 15 Palestinians were killed and dozens injured overnight in Israeli airstrikes across the territory. The strikes were reported in the settlement of Umwasi and a home in Gaza City, with children among the casualties. Hamas has charged the leader of a rival armed group operating in the south of Gaza with treason and collaborating with hostile entities. The European Commission has proposed setting a new interim
Start the
target
jump
of 90% reduction
early.
in greenhouse gas emissions by 2040,
Yeah, did I?
measured against 1990 levels.
No.
The target is seen as crucial for the EU's legally binding objective of having no net emissions by 2050. Wopke Hoekstra is the bloc's commissioner for climate.
Oh, come on.
Finally here, and on a very hot day, and some would call that very timely. What we're doing today is taking the next step in the European Union's path to
Oh, I forgot. Where are you? Now I'm all messed up.
and to cut its emissions. And we're doing so by putting forward
Come
an
on.
amendment to the European
Right
Climate Law that
there.
decreases emissions by 90% in 2040.
BBC News. Police in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province say at least 5 people, including a senior government official, have been killed by a bomb. 2 officers were among the dead. The blast targeted a government vehicle. 11 people were injured. It's not known who was behind the bomb, but Pakistani Taliban militants have carried out similar attacks in the past.
Right onto a table.
A tribunal
Or the umbrella to be more
sentenced
accurate.
the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to 6 months in prison for contempt of court. It found Ms. Hasina, who's now in exile in neighbouring India, guilty for a remark she made in December that prosecutors witnesses. Kavina Gupta reports.
This is the first time the 77-year-old former Prime Minister of Bangladesh has been sentenced in a case since a forced ouster from the country. The case was heard by a 3-member tribunal over a controversial phone conversation in which she allegedly used the phrase licensed to kill, while referring to the deaths of hundreds of students during nationwide protests last year.
This is a
The court
hard
stated that the sentence would take
jump.
effect on the day of her arrest or surrender.
The African Union force in Somalia has confirmed that one of its helicopters carrying 8 people has crashed at the main international
Where is
airport
it?
in the capital, Mogadishu. The
Where is
aircraft had been en
it? I
route
lost
from
it.
Bamdogo Air Base, northwest of the capital. It said 3 passengers were taken to hospital while a
Guess
search
I'll
was
leave
underway
this
for the
stupid
remaining
marker on
passengers and crew. A French
since
astronaut
I
has
can't
selected
navigate
French Michelin-star
properly
chef to provide her
without
breakfast
it.
food when she joins a European mission to the International Space Station next year. Sophie Adenau said Anne-Sophie Pique's dishes, including beef and black garlic, foie gras and chocolate cream with
Bike
hazelnut flour,
skill. Maybe that's what I need.
and allow us to reconnect with Earth. Individually chosen bonus foods make up a tenth of astronauts' space diet. BBC News.
Hello and welcome to News Hour from the BBC World Service. We're coming to you live from London. I'm James Menendez.
I don't think so.
Washington, D.C. and the fate
Oh yeah, is that it? Off the how? I don't think so. I'm losing my health. One more and I need to go get more health.
24 hours of debate and wrangling, but only by the narrowest of margins. 3 Republican senators opposed the bill, and so it fell to President J.D. Vance to cast the tie-breaking vote.
For what?
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
Well, with Senate approval, the legislation now
Come on.
back to the House of Representatives for a vote there, possibly as early as today. Although once again, many
that's good.
are also unhappy about the bill.
At least I didn't lose any energy.
Majority in the House. Well, the BBC's Washington correspondent is Anthony Zerka, where it has already passed one vote.
So right
House,
there.
why is it back now?
Right on that yellow line.
That's where legislation usually starts. The House passed their version of the bill, passed it over to the Senate, and then the Senate had changes. They actually added more to the federal debt with this. They had steeper cuts in Medicaid and other health care programs and some of the environmental programs.
No.
But it was a different bill. Once that happened, then the House has to approve the new version of that.
Do I have to hit that jump? I don't think so.
Given
the jump out
that the Senate's
after
approved,
it.
What does that mean in terms of Republican opposition to the bill, do you think?
Well, there was a very fine, delicate balance.
So I can't get much speed going up the stairs.
In majority, all on the same page on this. You had budget hawks on one side who wanted steeper cuts, but then you also had centrist Republicans who didn't want to cut healthcare programs that much. They feel like it would have had an adverse effect on their constituents. There were also ones who had problems with some of the
Stuck.
tax law changes. So this balancing act, they managed to somehow find that
Time to get some health.
they could get everyone in the
Let's go buy that property.
over to the Senate, and
I'll save there
upset that balance. Although I will say there's
and refill my health.
on all the Republicans.
Oh, isn't there armor up here?
Because this is, as we've discussed before, Donald Trump's signature legislation. It contains a lot of his agenda, whether it's no tax on tips or overtime wages, a multi-billion-dollar increase in defense spending, in border security spending to the tune of $7 billion, including new detention facilities and new immigration enforcement. All of that is what Donald Trump ran on last year.
Oh, I have armor. It's health I need. Duh. I wasn't really paying attention, I guess. I can't look up and see that white bar on the screen.
In elections in the future that their constituents may be very unhappy about.
You know, when you talk to the White House, they say what they're doing here is they're only denying Medicaid, this government program for low-income Americans, government insurance program. They're denying it to undocumented migrants. That they're cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse within the system, and they are adding new requirements for people who can work, able-bodied people who can work, to have to work in order to qualify for it. But there's more to the cuts than just that. So all of this is things that senators and individual members of the House of Representatives are going to have to worry about, because it's their constituents who are being affected.
What's your sense? Do you think it's going to go through? I know
Oh, it's on fire. I don't get to save it.
You're hearing a lot of complaints from the budget hawks right now. They've talked a big game before, however, and eventually backed away. And the reason why they backed down is because of Donald Trump. And
oh, it's only 30,000. Yeah.
Opposes them. They could get a primary challenger next year when they're running for re-election. And the thing,
It's got a garage.
Everyone is up for re-election every 2 years. So that pressure to answer the voters, to answer to Donald Trump, is going to be intense. And since they've already passed this one time and in one form earlier, as we discussed, it's going to be hard for them to say no when the stakes at this point are so high.
The BBC's North America correspondent
Near
Anthony
codes.
Zerka there. Well, as we've been hearing, many
Like
Republicans
my
are worried
others.
about the impact of cuts.
The bathroom
Healthcare
was
provision
one
on their
weird.
constituents. Later in the program, we are going to hear from a Republican in the House who's yet to decide which way to vote on the bill. The non-partisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that the bill would cut federal spending on Medicaid, that's the program for Americans on low incomes, by $1 trillion in the period up until 2034. That, it says, would leave 11.8 million more Americans without any health insurance by that same date. And that is despite President Trump saying on several occasions that he wouldn't cut Medicaid. Well, let's speak to one rural healthcare provider. Karen White is CEO of Missouri Highland Healthcare, a network of some 30 clinics serving 25,000 people across 7 counties in the state. Karen, thank you very much indeed for joining us on NewsHour today. How many of those
Okay, what am I going to do now? I got to go find another motorcycle, I guess.
In looking at the data that we gather, is about 20% of those that are on Medicaid right now, which makes up about 46% of our overall patient population. About 20% of those individuals would most likely lose coverage.
And what does that mean for those individuals and families in practice?
Unfortunately, without the coverage, they really have to choose between, do I get groceries? Do I pay my rent? Do I pay my utilities? Or do I go to the physician, to the doctor's office?
Let's try to do jumps in this.
Myself and my family. They rely on Medicaid to keep them well. And, you know, a well patient
All right,
is what
where are they?
Right, because without the coverage, they will just...
There's one right on this corner. Coming right up here.
Will come directly out of their budget that they
Or sort of. I got to get up there, but
in a low-income area such that we serve, that's hard. They don't have a lot of resources. We don't serve a population of folks who are high wage earners. I will say that the majority of the folks that we see on Medicaid are already working. They're already the working poor that we serve. And this added burden of possibly taking away their Medicaid coverage is just going to
basically, what do I do here?
The White House says
fly off the hill.
Medicaid for people that
I'll try.
Cutting waste. Do you see much waste in the system?
I don't see much waste in the system.
That's what,
at least not
that's what it looks like.
In how patients seek care. When I see our very sick individuals
over the bridge,
several comorbidities,
onto the bridge. Yeah, I did it.
Left most of their diseases untreated, and they ended up in the emergency room or in the hospital, which could just cost more.
The Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, staunch supporter,
let's mark it up.
Said he was against these cuts to Medicaid, but he eventually came round because more money was available, particularly for
there's one right nearby. Where is it?
Is that true?
Between these buildings.
Does the new version of the bill actually make things a bit better?
It doesn't from my perspective. Here in Missouri, because we were an expansion state, I think that that's probably one of the targets, right? That it feels like a target's on our back because we did expand Medicaid here in Missouri. So what we're looking
Fix
at
it
is
up.
just a different funding mechanism or reduction in how Missouri's Medicaid is reimbursed from the federal government. So our provider tax, and there's been a lot of that around in the news. The provider tax in Missouri is around 6%, and it will be capped at 3.5% on reimbursement.
Right. So this is the tax on healthcare.
Behind it.
Yeah.
Yes. And so at 2.5% in Missouri,
Up there.
we just received our Missouri budget just a couple of days ago, and it's not.
I don't see it.
Not a lot of extra in there, so I don't know where that 2.5%
That.
will come from, but most likely here in Missouri, it will result in further cuts.
Karen, thank you very much.
Let's recharge this.
Missouri Highland Healthcare.
Bayan she got in.
To Ukraine now, and a shock for the government there after the Trump administration announced that it was suspending some U.S. weapons deliveries. Let's talk to our correspondent in Kyiv.
Yeah, look at it.
Adams,
Yeah.
We don't.
Oh, no. Not good enough for you?
The Pentagon is looking at dwindling stocks, that it needs to take stock of all of that, and that certain key programs will be suspended.
Do I need a motorcycle for this?
We don't know which weapon systems are involved, although it is being widely reported that they will include some of the equipment, including Patriot air defense missiles that Ukraine relies on very heavily to ward off the relentless Russian aerial attacks that we have seen so much of in recent months. So it is obviously a source of concern. I should say that the Ministry of Defense here has warned people not to speculate. The government here is clearly has been taken by surprise by this announcement and is trying to get more information. It doesn't yet seem to have it. That's why we saw a senior.
That better, maybe. I don't know.
Ministry, the Foreign Ministry this morning.
Yeah.
But that at the moment, supplies are continuing.
What is Washington saying?
That one's done for
decision to start drawing
24 up on the map here.
Or is there something else going on?
There's nothing immediately to suggest that it is a political decision along the lines, perhaps,
right
we saw
here
earlier this year when, following that disastrous meeting in the Oval Office between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, American military assistance and intelligence sharing was suspended for a week or so. It doesn't seem to be that. It seems to be more about the Pentagon taking stock at a time when other commitments, including in the Middle East with the recent war between Israel and Iran, with America involved in trying to tackle the Houthis, and all of these sorts of things has put additional pressure on American resources. I was here a month ago when President Zelensky was talking about the fact that 20,000 air defense missiles, smaller air defense missiles, had been diverted to the Middle East. So there was already concern there. So I think that is the backdrop for this. How long it goes
more
on,
of that stuff.
is critical because, as I said, Ukraine relies incredibly heavily on very specific weapon systems, the Patriot missiles and the missiles that it can fire from Western-supplied F-16 jets to keep those skies clear and to keep Ukrainian civilians safe.
Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Wow, no loss of health.
Ukrainian capital, Paul Adams there. You're listening to News App from the BBC World Service.
The Maine Public Book Club connects readers across Maine, and we invite you to.
All right, what are they talking about?
Selection is Granite Harbor, the latest thriller by best-selling author Peter Nichols. A small town in coastal Maine is shaken to its core by a serial killer in this crime novel. Our virtual book club meeting for Granite Harbor will be held on Thursday evening, July 24th. For details, please visit mainpublic.org and click on Community.
The corner of the building.
In Maine weather today, partly to mostly sunny and warm, highs 79 to 87. For tonight, mainly clear, lows 58 to 60.
or whatever that is.
Partly sunny with some spotty
Other
showers,
song.
highs 75 to 88. For tomorrow night, evening showers and storms, then clearing, lows 51 to 60. For Friday, partly mostly sunny, highs 70 to 81. And for Saturday, partly sunny, highs 78 to 86. You're listening
How do I get in
News
there?
Hour on Maine Public Radio. The time is 9:20.
This is James Menendez with NewsHour live from BBC. Now, his activism and advocacy for the cause of Tibet and Tibetan Buddhism has made him a global figure who regularly rubs shoulders with Western celebrities and politicians. But the Dalai Lama turns 90 on Sunday. The question of who will succeed him has taken on extra urgency. Tibetan Buddhists believe he's the reincarnation of previous lamas. He was identified when he was just 2 years old. There's a political dimension too. The current Dalai Lama fled
How'd I get up
a few years
there?
after it was annexed by China in the early 1950s and has lived in exile in northern India ever since. China regards him as a Tibetan separatist and has always insisted it must approve the succession. Well, the Dalai Lama has now confirmed that he will have a successor, but it'll be up to his charitable trust to confirm the choice. We'll explore what that means in just a moment. But first, let's hear from the Indian town of Dharamshala, where the Dalai Lama and his fellow Tibetans in exile are based. Here's our South Asia correspondent, Samira Hussain.
For decades, the Dalai Lama has been the face of the Tibetan people. Recent knee surgery has left him unsteady on his feet.
What?
With the help
Oh,
of
right
fellow
there.
monks flanking him on each side, he walks into the temple that bears his name, greeting the crowds with his signature
It's a very short,
mostly Tibetans who have come to see
that
him.
would require a bike or a cab, right? Maybe a cab.
But in this jovial
Cab, there's one.
question looms large. Who will
I don't know if
succeed
it'll
the
work.
14th Dalai Lama? Something he briefly mentioned on Monday.
For the rest of my life, I will dedicate myself to the benefits of others as much as possible, as extensively as possible. There will
Okay.
be some kind of framework within which we can talk about the continuation of the institution of Dalai Lama.
I'm actually standing outside the
Oh my
monastery
God, what am I doing
just
that for?
adjacent to the Dalai Lama's home, and there's a banner that says 90th birthday celebrations of His Holiness. This is an area that is rich in Tibetan culture. You know, on my left, I can see that there is the Tibetan market where they're selling pieces of jewelry.
It's not a whole lot of
Books. And so I'm actually on my way to go speak with Tenzin Palmo. Now, he has worked with the Dalai Lama for decades.
to
He has
work
a real keen
with.
sense of the kind of impact the 14th Dalai Lama has had
I don't
on the
get
Tibetan
it.
community. And of course, the big
Gotta
question is,
whip it around.
what happens next?
I don't think there'll be anybody else who would be able to garner such support for Tibetans.
We'll come back to this one, I think.
I think it will be very difficult. I mean, you'll have to have all the qualities that he has
Wait.
and the effort he made. So, from that point of view, Jonas has made, the Tibetan issue kind of now common knowledge for me.
Oh yeah, exciting.
The Dalai Lama, along with 10,000 followers,
Losing my
left the
muscle.
Oh.
in 1959 after a failed uprising against China's occupation of Tibet. They settled in the North Indian Himalayan town of Dharamshala, setting up schools and even a government in exile. But most Tibetans who live in these mountains cling to the dream of going home.
We're on our way to go and
That doesn't really strike me as being
She's 86-year-old. She fled
correct.
Tibet in 1959, the same time as the Dalai Lama. And in that home, there's not just her, but there are two other generations that are living there. Her daughter and her grandchildren have never stepped foot in Tibet, but they still very much believe that they are Tibetan. Lobsang Choyden was only 19 when she fled Tibet, fearing for her life under occupation, the same year as the Dalai Lama. Now 3 generations
I'll
of
have to
local
look
family
into it
living
later.
under one roof, despite her decades in exile. My faith, she says, is
$13.
that I will
All
return
right,
to
where am I
Tibet.
going?
If not me, my younger generation will definitely return. For so many thousands of Tibetans living in exile, like Choydon, the Dalai Lama has kept that hope alive.
That was our South Asia correspondent Samira Hussain reporting from Dharamshala in northern India. So, what will happen now that the Dalai Lama has said there will be a successor approved by his own organisation? What does that mean? A question for Alexander Norman, the Dalai Lama's biographer.
What he has been keen to do, really since the get-go, was to legitimize the office of the Dalai Lama.
See what this
What you see
is.
here is the Dalai Lama wanting to ensure publicly for the outside world or the onlooking world, he wants to show that the religious institution of the Dalai Lama is requested and, if you like, required by the people.
Oh, come on.
Is responding to that.
And part of that is also
You would have arrested me.
clear that China doesn't have any say in that.
Absolutely.
Leave me alone.
Absolutely clear that the only person with authority in this matter is himself. He says in his statement today, I hereby reiterate that the Gandhi Pradhan Trust has sole authority. So he is granting authority to this board.
I forgot what it is.
And he's making it clear that this is the sole authority in the matter of recognizing future reincarnation.
So they won't actually choose the next Dalai Lama, but they will approve
exactly
this general.
Whoever is identified as that reincarnation.
Exactly. And let's not forget that he clearly hasn't in the statement ruled out the possibility of a successor being appointed in the near future who is
something
already living. It doesn't
that
necessarily entail that the Dalai Lama himself has to die to leave the earthly realm.
How is the
where I
Dalai
forgot
Lama
now.
chosen? I mean, how is he, and I assume it is a he, how is he identified?
Well, to put it very shortly and bluntly, signs and wonders. So the religious authorities will be looking for particular reports from high lamas, mystics, visionaries, seers. For
I make it, that's pretty lame. I gotta make it over the building.
If in the case of an infant, you would expect stories about mysterious circumstances surrounding the birth. You might hear of particular events taking place in the vicinity of where the child was born.
What is China so worried about when it comes to the succession, given that the current Dalai Lama and his followers, I mean, they all live in exile? Are they worried that
I need a PCJ.
Well, I guess just as high a profile and may actively start to campaign to move back to Tibet? Is that it?
They would like to control it. They would like to control
maybe.
the appointment and
Yeah.
they would like to control the individual so that he
That's
becomes
that
a
one.
servant, if you like, of the People's Republic of China, or more particularly of the
Now to number, what, 18?
him causing dissent, especially in this particular environment today where Buddhism
On the map here, where are you?
amongst the laity in China itself.
Something like here.
And so if the future Dalai Lama was able to capitalize on that and cause dissent and cause people to turn away from the authority of the Communist
Whoop,
Party,
I'm going totally the wrong way.
not in their interests.
And that was Alexander Norman, who wrote a biography of the Dalai Lama and indeed helped co-write several books by him. You're listening to News End from the BBC. Do stay with us, lots more coming up in the second half of the program.
Distribution of BBC NewsHour in the U.S. is supported by BetterHelp, committed to making mental well-being a priority and offering support and taking on everything life demands, with therapists available to communicate via video, chat, or phone at BetterHelp.com/public. And Progressive Insurance, helping protect a wide variety of small businesses with over 30 customizable coverage options to choose from. A small business protection that won't break the bank. Online quotes available at ProgressiveCommercial.com.
The BBC World Service on main public radio is made possible by listeners like you, with help from the Cedars, where you can retire your way of their nonprofit senior living community in Portland, offering independent living at the Atrium. The Cedars.
Alright, where is it?
And Patriot Subaru, who believe that a positive customer experience is the best measure of success. For more, PatriotSubaru.com.
Where exactly is it?
In the next 30 minutes,
In this green part?
agreed to finalize a new deal to end the fighting in Gaza and release the remaining hostages. But
This green? I don't think so.
Device helping to save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers hit by shrapnel. And we'll head to New York as jury deliberations resume in the
Oh my
trial.
god.
All that's coming up after
I have no idea.
BBC News with Moira Alderson. Ukraine.
I think I'll wait and do this one later. Oh, let me put the marker down again.
Russia. The US has not
Pointing
confirmed
at
which weapons will be affected, but it's believed the supply of artillery shells and vital Patriot air defense missiles are to be reduced. Hamas is yet to respond to a 60-day ceasefire proposal for Gaza announced by President Trump. The US leader said Israel had agreed
Is it
to
up
terms.
there?
There appear to be disagreements
How do I get
among
up there?
far-right government ministers. Hamas has charged the leader of a rival armed group operating in the south of Gaza with treason and collaboration with hostile entities. It's ordered Yasser Abu Shabab to turn himself in. Israel has admitted supporting groups against Hamas. The EU says it wants a 90% reduction in carbon
Some
emissions
craziness
by
up
2040
here.
from 1990 levels. The Commission described it as an ambitious move, which comes as governments elsewhere are reneging on their climate goals. The US House of Representatives is convening to
I don't know.
spending bill after it squeaked through the Senate. The House will debate changes to the legislation made
I
in the
don't
upper
see
chamber.
anything.
The vote should come later on Wednesday. Bangladesh's ousted former leader Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to 6 months in prison for contempt of court. It's the first jail sentence she's received.
I'll have to look it up online or on YouTube or wherever.
In exile in India. Police in Pakistan say 5 people
Come
have been
on.
killed.
Come on, man.
A government vehicle in an area where the Pakistani Taliban are operational. Beef with black garlic and foie gras are among the specially designed meals that will follow the French astronaut Sophie Adenau to the International Space Station next year. She had asked Michelin chefs to come up with the recipes. That's the latest world news from the BBC.
Welcome back to News.
Back right where I started.
Migrant people across the English Channel in the first 6 months of this year. That's up by 48% compared to the same 6-month period last year, and up by 75% compared to the same period back in 2023.
$37. Sorry, where next? Oh, another one of those in this area. That area, rather.
The migrants and the smugglers, but as our correspondent James Waterhouse found out on the northern French coast,
I'll do that one later too, whatever. So, where am I going?
This morning, it's to receive a hot lunch of bread and pasta from local volunteers.
Number 19.
Eritrea, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran are part of a larger
over
game
here.
of cat and mouse between local police, you see them, and the gangs who've promised
How do I get away?
for thousands of pounds.
Get me off this highway. Let me go. Let me off.
Likely be demolished by the authorities. Relocating is a part of life here. Next to the main canal in central Calais is this camp. It's surrounded by terrain and litter. It's
You losers.
successful crossing last night. Mahir was on that boat and had to jump off to rescue his children who were struggling in the water.
Syria is totally destroyed. Our country is destroyed. There is no life, no houses, no water, no electricity, nothing. It's not possible to have a future there.
Wow, I got totally to the wrong area here.
Different, but is still seen as the last chance of a better life. It's why, with no outward fear, migrants fill local buses to locations close to the beach. They then get instructions of where to hide and wait for their boat.
My name's Ahmed. I came from Sudan.
How many times have you tried to cross to the UK?
Until now, it's 7 times.
Why has it failed for 7 occasions?
Sometimes from the police. Sometimes for too much people. So some of them succeed, some of them come back.
So you're going now to hopefully get a boat.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. He's just moved
Good.
where a load of men are cramming into
Good.
a chartered bus. So let's see where they're going to go. As we try to catch up, we realise a local patrol car had the same idea.
Yeah, bike skill upgraded.
Makes it clear he doesn't want to speak with us. So the guys have asked us to stop following them. They thought we had tipped off the police. We had not. But you notice a definite...
Yeah, you did, you liar.
You trawled as part of the northern French shoreline. You realise that it's not
Oh.
successfully cross into the UK, but the vast majority who repeatedly try and fail.
That was James Waterhouse reporting from northern France.
Let me up there. Oh, I screwed up.
I'm James Menendez. Well, let's turn to the war in Gaza and the possibility of some sort of deal.
There. I guess I'm all right.
President Trump said late on Tuesday that Israel had agreed to finalize an agreement to release the remaining hostages being held by Hamas and to a 60-day ceasefire, and he called on Hamas to accept the deal. It's always maintained that any ceasefire would have to lead to an end to the war and the withdrawal of Israeli troops from the territory. Let's speak to Yaakov Amidrov, former Major General in the Israeli Defense Forces and a former advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, now at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Very good to have you with us here on NewsHour today. How optimistic are you about this latest ceasefire proposal? How well advanced is it? What's your understanding?
Let's see, where exactly do they want it?
The problem
On
is
this.
Hamas think that would be the way to escape and to survive after the war against Israel in the 7th of October and all the atrocities perpetrated by the organization and its supporters. And they might think that this ceasefire will be the first step towards leaving them in Gaza untouched and to continue to in the future. And this is something that we cannot ignore.
Well, I'm reading a statement that's just been issued by Hamas, just as I was reading the introduction, just in the past couple of days.
Knock that one off.
It does mention the withdrawal of Israeli forces.
Oops, wrong one.
Conditions. Are you saying that that is never going to happen while Hamas is still in Gaza?
No, we are ready to retreat.
Now this one. Or did I already try that one?
To disarm, and if we have Hamas in Gaza, we are not.
Yeah, I'll try it again, maybe, if it's what I'm thinking it is.
This is something that is against all the logic of the operation that we are conducting since the war was imposed on Israel. So I don't see a situation in which Hamas continue to control Gaza, to be the
yeah, it's that.
Controlling the people of Gaza and the area of Gaza. And I hope that the ceasefire will be a beginning of the end of the control of Hamas in Gaza.
FCR.
He's also said in the past few minutes that he still wants to see the eradication of Hamas in Gaza. From a military point of view, I mean, is that possible? Is that still a realistic strategy?
It's possible. It will take time. We will have casualties.
Come on.
It's a very nasty war. It's a guerrilla war.
Yeah, I think so. Nope.
The terror organization inside Gaza.
So much closer.
Strong card, which is complicated, make all our operation very complicated. It's the hostages that they took in the 7th of October and didn't release yet. So we have to be very cautious in some areas in which we have information that might be the place in which the hostages are. So it is a complicated situation, but yes, we can continue to fight and to kill them and to
worse that time.
This organization. They don't have legitimacy.
How? That was kind of cool.
After what they did in the 7th of October.
A costly war for Israeli troops. I think more than 20 were killed in June, but also it's very costly for Palestinian civilians in Gaza. We saw that Israeli airstrike on a cafe in Gaza.
How did I do so good that other time? That one time.
It ended when Hamas will stop fighting Israel and disarm themselves, and in half an hour after Hamas will be disarmed, the war will be ended. I don't think, I'm sure that they advise us to stop an operation against the organization who made the atrocities of the 7th of October just because they decided to fight within their own people. It's their decision. They will go out of the civilian areas and fight Israel out of the civilian areas. Civilians will not be killed. If they will be ready to disarm, the war will be ended in 30 minutes. So,
do you think? Just one final question though. Do you think that this coalition government will support a ceasefire? We're already seeing rumblings from some of the far-right members of the government that they don't want to see a ceasefire under any circumstances.
I don't know. It's a democracy. You know, it's a democracy. There is one rule. You have a majority in the parliament, you can do it. If you don't have a majority in the parliament, you cannot do it. Israel is a democracy. And within the coalition, this is part of being a democracy. It's not a dictatorship in which the prime minister can say everything. It's okay. It's part of
I got stupid.
Thank you very much indeed. That was Yaakov Amidou, former Major General in the IDF, now at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Well, let's hear a little more about that airstrike, Israeli airstrike on the Al Baka cafeteria, a popular coffee shop in Gaza City by the coast. At least 20 people are reported to have died in the attack. The Israeli military said it was targeting Hamas militants and says it's investigating the incident.
How what happened? I fell out of the animation.
She was speaking to NewsHour's James Kumarasamy about the friends that she lost in the attack.
Al Baba Cafe is considered as my second home. I cannot stay all the day in my apartment. I have no electricity, I have no internet. So whenever I finish from working or doing reports, I usually go to this cafe. It provides us, me and my colleague as journalists and social activists with internet, with
yeah, there we not go. Maybe that other motorcycle is what I need.
It also provides us with coffee and
so the rest I gotta rethink or something.
So we are living in this place, and I know this place since many years, maybe 20
Let's
years
go
now,
save the game.
in university, and I used to go.
I'll try one more time.
Even my family.
No, maybe not.
When the cafe was struck, you had friends who were in it.
Yes, I have friends like Ismail and Amna. Also, I have Diane. We usually go there. We are talking about ourselves as girls. At that time,
what's happened to your friends, Hannah?
Actually, Bayan, she got injured, and Ismail and friends, they were killed. Also, people who are working there, I know them from years. They are considered as my brother. One of them, he was calling me all the time, Mama Rada, because he was young,
like 4 seconds.
18 years old. And today I went to the Baka. I was sitting in the same place, like in my table in the middle of Al Baka, and I was looking to the place where Ismail and Franz, they were killed. I was looking around me, like if I was there, for sure I won't be survived.
So how do you feel about the fact that this place that you describe as your second home?
I think I'm gonna save and quit, actually.
It was horrible for me
I know, whatever.
To see the blood on the ground. But I hope that they will reconstruct again, and we
maybe I'll play later today, like later tonight.
My friends who are working there, because really this is what is touching my heart.
Thrown into the water.
Journalist Hada Al-Qud.
back to Ukraine because medics there say that shrapnel wounds now make up more than 3/4 of all the injuries on the battlefield, with many soldiers on the front line suffering near fatal injuries. However, a new defense that's made in Ukraine is now increasing their chances of survival. It is magnetic and as such is able to extract shell fragments from wounds much more quickly and safely, as Anastasia Grebanova now reports.
I can feel something here. I can feel a fragment.
Veteran war medic David Knott is holding a large pink artificial
All
heart.
right, thanks for watching, everyone, and sorry I missed your messages there. Arjunaverse.
Shrapnel wounds are extremely difficult to treat.
Save
Medic is
game.
demonstrating a new tool designed to treat these injuries.
If you run the magnet over the surface,
Yes.
suddenly you'll feel something.
I'm going to sit outside for a while. Oh, power off. Power off. All right, thanks again. Bye-bye.